We will not tolerate errors. Well, it looks like I'm on YouTube, but for some reason, it's not going live on Facebook. Nope.
This video has ended, it says on Facebook. It'll be available to watch on APG timeline shortly.
Well, they said you had to get it started within 10 minutes. Does that mean like 10 minutes before and then up to?
I don't know.
Oh man.
We're still learning.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess what we're going to have to do. I wonder if I can do this. Edit and set a new time. What time is it now? 3:01. Let's say 3:05 p.m. Facebook broadcast must be scheduled for at least 10 minutes from now. Okay. So let's make it done 3:15. Save changes. Oh, why is this doing this? This is no good. Some fields are invalid. Okay. What the heck do you mean? Maybe if I do and add a -2 to the episode number, maybe because it says, oh, you already have that. Okay. No. It still says that some fields are invalid. So I put the title and description and schedule for later. And so the broadcast is already live. No, it isn't. Oh boy. What we may have to do is just put a post on Facebook requires you to go live before 3:09 p.m. If you don't, they'll delete your stream. Well, I did. Oh. Wow.
Go live, Jeff. Go live.
I'm trying. It just keeps giving me this thing that says an error occurred.
Does it help if you're if you go live on StreamYard first? I don't know.
Well, StreamYard is the one that's actually sending the streams to Facebook.
Is that possibly the problem? We're not live on StreamYard, so there's no live feed.
There is no such thing as live on StreamYard. We are live on Facebook and live on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
StreamYard's just the thing that facilitates it. The stream.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a button. I have a little dialog box for the Facebook one, and it says an error occurred. Wait a moment, then try again. Heads up. Facebook requires you go live before 3:09. So I had the proper understanding. So within 10 minutes of the time you say you're going to start.
Gotcha.
And I hit it right at 3 o'clock Eastern time. But this error occurred on Facebook. And so there's a button there that says go live. So I'm pushing it.
Press it.
Well, I did. And it's giving me the same message. Here, let me, well, never mind. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you see that or not. I can look. Okay. I'll give you a copy of what I'm looking at. And then I'll put that right here. And it's in the messages. That's what I'm looking at. Sorry, everybody on YouTube for the...
can you remove it and reinstate it?
No.
Okay.
Well, I can try. That's an idea. Because it does have a remove button. Remove this destination from the broadcast? No, so that's going to mess up the current YouTube. Okay, wait. Delete on Facebook. Remove this destination from the broadcast. Yes, remove. Okay. Now, broadcast to Facebook and save changes. Ah, I think we're on Facebook.
All right, let me have a look. I see nothing as yet.
Okay.
Mind you, right, okay. I've got a new notification. We're live. Yes, we are on Facebook.
Yay. Okay, so let me see here.
I just need to turn the volume down there. That's it.
Um,
All right, now I've got the chat room on Facebookie.
Okay, we're on Face 2.
Albeit I look
Face
like
bag.
you. Face bag.
That's what I like to call it. Okay. Still trying to adjust my video balance. I need an expert like Nev to help me with that.
He's on the Facebook chat.
Okay. Well, I don't know. He's got to be here with me in this hotel room to adjust this. Right? Okay, I'm going manual. And I'm going to increase the gain a little bit. Oh, that's way too much. Okay, so Liz says it's all good on Facebook now. Sorry, everybody. Not sure why I did that. I tried to start both of these simultaneously, as I did last week. And it didn't work very well. Is that any better, Nick?
Better than what?
Than it was before.
What are we talking about now? Sorry.
My video.
Oh, yes. You look rosy red, and your lights have gone orangey. So you've gone.
Let me turn
nicely
that one in the
tungsten.
background.
It was better back the other way.
Mind the bed.
Okay.
How are your ankles?
Just fine.
Good.
Some big jet making all kinds of noise here. I'm gonna have to call the airport and complain.
Yep, I would.
Probably some UPS jet making a racket. Okay. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the usual hiccups. Again, we're using this StreamYard service, and they just gave us the ability to stream multi-stream, and the plan that I have allows up to 2 streams. And so we're doing YouTube, and as we always have, and just added Facebook last episode. And hello, everybody on Facebook. For some reason, it just didn't. Where you at, Jeff? I'm at Louisville. That was Alex Broadkey in Facebook asking. Okay. So anyway, what we have here is 2 streams, one on Facebook, one on YouTube. And we have both, we're seeing chat from both of those destinations. And it's going to be difficult for us to carry on conversations in both chat rooms, I think. But you just chat amongst yourselves if you want. Wouldn't you say that's a good idea, guys?
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially for me.
And
hi, Craig.
Looks like Steph will be joining us in progress. She has a physical therapy appointment. I don't know how she's going to be able to make it before we end the show. If it starts at 4 o'clock. Maybe the last third of the show. Anyway, we'll see. hopefully, fingers
Just in
crossed.
time for plain tails.
Yeah.
We might want to put plain tails in a little
Yeah,
earlier.
you know what? Let's do that. Let's start. Let's do the plain tails before we do the feedback.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. And what we're going to do today, we're going to start with the news, and then we'll do the catch up.
Tomato?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew, because I know when I said that, I thought it sounds like I'm saying ketchup.
You just
Because that's what I'm saying. But
I'm thinking meatloaf when you say
not
ketchup.
KETCHUP or CATSUP, which I've never understood. That sounds like catsup to me. But we're talking about CATCH space UP. There we go. Okay, let me do some sound checks here. We'll get our recorders started and make sure that that's going to all work out okay.
Brilliant!
Did you hear that?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, and let's see. I want to see if you can hear this. Command 3 and scroll to the bottom and press play. Oh, by the way, I didn't have a chance to trim the Après moi la déluge part 4. So I'll
You
add
can
that.
probably quit it about 1920 or 1930.
Because when it goes on till about like 2007 before you say your little promotional thing at the end.
Yes,
Okay.
that last bit's just music.
I didn't know if you wanted to. Oh, shoot.
No.
Okay. Let me play a little bit of this.
The old pilot's plain tales.
Good.
Après moi la déluge.
Après moi la déluge. You did hear
I
that,
keep
right?
saying la when it ought to be le.
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 L-E as
Le.
opposed to L-A.
Le.
Just think of the Pink Panther. You have a berm. Where is this berm?
It's on the phone.
Does your dog bite?
No. I thought you said your dog did not bite. I can't do that. I need to watch another Pink Panther movie to get that back.
I thought you said your dog did not bite.
I did.
He's
not
my dog.
That was, I think, one of the best ones, actually. Was that Revenge of the Pink Panther, that one?
Yeah, probably is. Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. All right. Let's do recorder start.
Oh,
Already done.
Okay. And clapboard slash hands.
Ready.
Yep.
Aim.
Yes, it is a pair of undies hanging on the wall. Powell Wanierski on Facebook is asking about Dana's background there. And yes, those are briefs hanging from the wall. Because you know why?
Thank you, Barbara.
Dana takes his undies off and then he just throws them on the wall and they stick for some reason. I'm not going to say anything else.
Yeah, the show does that to him.
Okay, you ready?
Wow.
APG 396 in 3.
Hang on a minute.
Uh-oh.
No.
The top fell off. All right. I'm
3,
ready.
2, 1.
Ah, my finger.
Oh, the gore.
That's not the only thing that got stuck in there.
Oh,
I send this back to Neville. Came
Après
off in my
moi,
hand, Governor.
le déluge. It doesn't matter because Roger Stern is going to be doing this in the actual podcast, not me. But I'm going to substitute for him while we do the video recordings of this. By the way, if you're watching this video after the fact or while we're recording, I want to remind you that what we're doing here is recording the audio podcast. And so the actual audio podcast is not going to have all this stuff in it. It's going to be a little bit tighter. And I try to edit it so to make us seem like we're smarter than we really are.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Very, very difficult
Brilliant.
job.
Brilliant!
Yes. Okay. And so we got the recorders going. Looks like I have SD cards with actual storage space on them, so it's not going to quit in the middle of the show. Yeah. And we've done our sound check, so I guess now the only thing left to do really is this. And Liz, are you ready? About 3:15. Here we go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 396.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 510 in the Hilton Garden Inn in Louisville, Kentucky. Today's show was recorded on the 17th of October, 2019.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. It's your ride and it's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a plane crashes into a ski lift cable in the Italian Alps. A Piper Aerostar crashes after being fueled with jet fuel. More news, your feedback, and this week's plane tale, Après moi le déluge, part 4. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 396 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast where we cover the latest in aviation news and answer your feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, in my 31st year of flying for a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, Georgia, which I like to call Acme Airlines. And I'm also joined today by some awesome hosts, including from his studio in the English countryside, a professional photographer, former RAF RAAF fighter pilot, former captain for an international airline based in London. It's Captain Nick.
Oh, hi there, Jeff, and great to be joining you for another show. Isn't it great? Sadly, only 3 of us at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get one more towards the end.
Let's hope so. And also joining us from his studio near the Concord Covered Bridge in Smyrna, Georgia, a barbecue master, motorcycle rider, pontoon boat skipper, underwater photographer, and captain for a major U.S. legacy airline. It's Captain Dana.
Oh, great to be back for another fantastic episode with you guys. Missing Dr. Steph a little bit, but we hope to see her in a little while.
Yes, we're hoping. She has a doctor's appointment. Wait a minute. She's a doctor.
Why does the doctor need to go to the doctor?
I don't know.
Doctor, heal thyself.
Yeah, so we all know, and we don't say it. She has a little issue with her head, and so hopefully that doctor will be able to help.
Trouble is, she also runs HR, so just be careful what you say, Jeff.
Yeah, no kidding. No.
I'm kidding. Of course, she knows I'm kidding.
And it's hard to be a backstabber yourself. If stabbing yourself in the back might be a little difficult.
Yeah, but I bet if anybody could do it, she could.
Probably. I agree with that.
Yeah. So she hopes to join us at some point later on in today's show, and then we'll get all caught up with her because she has a lot to tell us about. She's been a very busy girl, and I think we should go ahead and just jump right on into the news segment. So here we go.
Stand by for news.
Okay, the first item in the news folder is an Australineus aureus. I'm not sure if that's the proper pronunciation or not, but pilots caught filming River Plate Stadium fireworks on final approach to Buenos Airport and the Buenos Aires, Aziza Airport, Argentina. They were coming in on final approach, and they noticed that fireworks were being shot off or around the River Plate Stadium. And the fireworks show is a tradition before every game. And that evening, with more importance, as it was the game between the River Plate, or Plate, maybe is the way you say that, and Boca Juniors in the Copa Libertadores semifinal. Don't you love my accent? It's so authentic. While the aircraft was approaching the runway and on autopilot, both pilots were filming the fireworks above the stadium, approximately 400 meters from the glide path. Now, I don't know exactly what they mean by that. 400 meters from the glide path or on the glide path at about 400 meters above the ground. Take your pick, I guess. None of the pilots seemed to be paying attention to the instruments and the upcoming landing. The video went viral on social media, but next to a lot of hits, the pilots will have some headaches as they now have to provide text and explanation to their employer, Austral. The company will conduct an investigation. Now, this last sentence is puzzling to me, but according to sources within the company, it's unlikely that the pilots will be sanctioned. Now, maybe they have different rules over there in South America, but I can guarantee you if that were some American pilots and probably British pilots, they'd be looking for employment. Yeah. Dana is. I wish you could see him on the video. He does this to me actually in private all the time. He's doing that signage or the nonverbal communication of putting his hand underneath his neck like he's slicing my neck open. Yes, he is a very violent.
Slightly
Yeah,
worrying.
very, very violent. I do it all the time, Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
Just
Scares
directed at you.
I know. That's the only reason why he's on the show, because he's threatened me so many times with my life. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, yeah. So
well, I do threaten you with your life. Anytime I see you, I give you that big old bear hug and I almost crush you.
I know. You make me a little stuff comes out of my mouth. You squeeze me so hard. And other places.
When it comes out of your ears.
Yeah, I was going to say, just stop.
Yes. Pip in the YouTube chat room is saying, dumb, dumb, dumb. Now, I'm not sure if he's commenting on the 3 videos that he's watching, the 3 faces on the video, or if he's talking about how really, really dumb these pilots
that
were.
would be dumb, dumber, and dumbest.
Yeah, dumbest.
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, this really does. Well, we see people putting up videos, and even the approach and landing, and 99.9% of the time they are from a fixed camera, which requires no attention during the approach. So it would be relatively safe to do that. But to handhold your phone while you're doing it, and then to catch sight of the guy beside you who's also doing exactly the same thing, that really does reek of incompetence.
Yeah.
So wouldn't like to see people hand-holding the phone on the approach, doing anything with it. But having said that, yeah, this does definitely smack of.
Can I ask the obvious question?
Yes.
Is there no cockpit door? Obviously illegal for us to do anything. Well, really, you're not supposed to have your personal electronic devices on at all from the time we do the pushback checklist completion of it until we shut down the engines and do the shutdown checklist. That's the proper way of doing things. And I would imagine, well, I know here in the States, that would be with every employer. I would imagine most employers in the world. But what I'm thinking is, how did the people get video of this? If they're in the cockpit, is there no cockpit door?
No,
If you've not seen the video,
the pilots are taking the video.
The pilots are taking the video, and because the stadium is off to the right-hand side, as the captain is shooting a picture, he brings the first officer into the view, so you can see the captain's picture of the first officer also taking pictures. So, yeah, not brilliant. And
yes, I apologize.
You must remember that the rules in your airline are pretty strict regards this compared with most other airlines.
That's our own airline's more stricter policy than even the FAA rules. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Acme takes safety pretty seriously, so that's. But anyways, I'm sorry, I did not.
Oh, you could say they're a bit anal.
Yeah, well, yeah, those that chew on coal poop diamonds. Anyways, I'm sorry. I apologize. I did not watch the video, so that's why I did not know. I was just reading the verbiage and thus now I know the reason why. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go. There's a solution to everything.
Yeah, I should
But
watch the
whatever.
video before I comment.
If you're a very very senior captain about to retire, you might not mind too much. But if you're anywhere close to being a junior captain or a first officer looking to carry on a good long career, this is not an ideal thing to do.
Nope, it is not. Okay, well, anyway, I found that last sentence very interesting. That it's likely that they weren't even going to get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I know that. Were they actually management pilots? I wonder.
Maybe they were.
I don't know.
There you
Perhaps
go.
it's the chief pilot, so he's not going to slap himself.
Or he might, but
He might enjoy it. So
yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's see. B. Cracks found on more than 5% of older Boeing 737s in the pickle fork inspections. It's the old pickle fork conspiracy. We talked about the fact that they had started to see some very, very fine hairline cracks in these components on the 737 new generation airplanes. I believe that would include what the 600, 700, 800, 900 series.
I think it's 78900.
789.
Yeah.
I know for us it is, but I think that there are some other airlines that fly the other models as well.
Would
But anyway,
these be considered older models? Because I thought they all sound pretty new.
yeah, well, some of them are not really that old at all. No, not really older models. They're just not as new as the Max, I guess, if you're going to differentiate, between the new generation and the Max and the age and all that kind of stuff. But no, you're right, Captain Nick. They're still making the new generation models in addition to the Max, as far as I know. But anyway, we talked about these pickle forks, the component that basically is where the wings attach to the wing box and fuselage and kind of allow for the wings to flex.
I reckon it looks more like a spork than a pickle fork. But
yeah, I don't know. It's I think you're right.
Because you get those wooden things to eat your French fries with in Europe, and that's exactly what they look like, except they're smaller, made of wood. Perhaps that's Boeing's problem. They made them out of wood. Oh, I don't know. Did they do that?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, Boeing is quite in the pickle, aren't they?
Yes.
What's going on with the 737?
5% seems a low number, but when you add up the total number of aircraft, that's a lot of airframes to fix.
And I believe when they take these things out of service to actually repair them, it takes at least like a week and a half, 2 weeks for each one.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem.
Cheap.
And Jeff, so I raise this back up. You were correct. You have to worry about the 500, the 50% out. 737-600 is listed as a new model.
6, 7, 8, and 9.
Correct.
What about the 5? So the 500 isn't?
No, that's not. The article says 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, very good.
I wonder what they did different in the manufacture or the assembly in those later models that they weren't doing in the initial ones, because the initial ones seem to be going on. There are some of the old 200, 300s still flying, doing very well.
I'm wondering if it has something to do with the fact that I don't know if they started doing this with the 737 model or not, but they started to try to use more outside third-party manufacturers in assembling everything together. And perhaps this is not something that they've actually made themselves. I don't know, what the actual deal is.
I'd love to know if there was a correlation, if any of our listeners are involved with that. Sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's okay. I'm used to it.
Go ahead.
Cheeky rat. All right, turn him off. Kick him off. Kick him off.
Shut him up. I was just going to say,
He's out of there. I'm sorry.
Good thing you can't see below the screen view here.
Go ahead.
Anyways, what I was going to say is we always come to the old adage, they just aren't making them like they used to. We talk about all the things in our lives, washing machines, dishwashers, cars, the whole 9 yards. I would have to say that would probably be a good guess, Jeff, what you were talking about. I mean, it would possibly be a change in manufacturer or a technique or material.
Mm-hmm.
Could be any one of those items, I would guess.
I don't know. Maybe somebody out there listening knows the answer.
Or the other issue is the aircraft have been changed in length and width. Well, not width, but length. So it might be putting extra stress on those joints without a redesign.
Yeah, but think about the 700 and 600 models are pretty short.
Well, that's why we call them the fluff jet.
Yeah. So I don't know what the deal is.
Anybody know what the fluff jet means?
Well, we used to call it the fluff or
Yeah.
fluff, the 73200 model.
Yeah, well, the 700 is not much bigger than the 200. No. Anyways, enough about that.
Okay. Well, yeah, so it's a problem. But honestly, I'm not really too upset about it because anything that takes other airplanes other than the Mad Dog out of service just prolongs the life of the fleet at Acme Airlines.
There you go.
That's what I'm looking for.
Every cloud.
Yeah, there we go. And of course, the durability of the Mad Dog is just proving to be far more durable than the other equipment that we're talking about here.
Well, the DC-9s have been known to, be considered to be made like tanks, like very, very rugged airplanes. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. C. Oh, by the way, let's see, the previous one, Larry Gregory in Tulsa, Oklahoma, sent us a picture of the Boeing pickle forks, and we'll put that in the show notes if you want to take a look at those, or those, what'd you call them? Sporks?
Yeah, I don't know what the proper name for them is, but
Yeah.
I've heard that name bandied around.
So rate on item C, Ray Davis and Robert Fairbairn, otherwise known as Dick, both sent us this news item. Apparently a pilot and his passenger had an unbelievably lucky escape when their plane crashed into a ski lift cables, actually, and they were left completely uninjured. The 62-year-old pilot was able to get out of the plane, but his 55-year-old passenger had to be rescued after they were left trapped in the cockpit. Footage shows the light aircraft tangled in the ski lift wires, dangling precariously upside down. And they have some videos taken by rescue teams, and you can see one of the rescue team members kind of, what would you call it? Kind of creeping along the ski lift cable toward the upside down airplane. And there was a dejected looking pilot sitting on the one of the wings waiting for the rescuer to approach the airplane. Anyway, this incident occurred at a ski resort north of Milan in the Italian Alps. Let's see, I have this second article that I added here because I think it has a little bit more information. Oh, wait. What happened to it? I don't see it. Okay. I thought I had something that said what exactly happened here, but I guess the airplane lost power and was coming down. And a lot of people, or someone said, Walter Milan, spokesperson, said that they were very, very lucky. It was a miraculous escape. The plane crashed into the cables, but fortunately, it became stuck rather than crashing to the ground. That whole area is, if you have a ski lift, it's probably not flat terrain.
No, it does look pretty. There's lots of trees and very steep valleys and nowhere flat.
Yeah, so I can understand why he says they're very lucky that they actually kind of snagged this wire. I'm sure that he didn't try to do that. You don't think he would have, do you?
I wouldn't have thought so. I thought his attention was probably somewhere other than keeping an eye on his flight path, because he was probably desperately trying to get his motor going again or whatever, fix whatever problem he had.
And it's a miracle that neither the pilot nor the passenger had any injuries at all. And the spokesperson, Mr. Milan, added, there are a number of possible reasons for the crash, such as human error or a mechanical failure, but we do not want to speculate. There will be an investigation.
No, that's our job.
Yeah.
What's the aircraft type? Anyone?
I don't know. I don't even recognize it at all.
It looks like a high wing Although in the photo, since it's upside down, it looks
It's
like
a low wing, yeah.
with
Yeah.
the
And the
landing gear
wheels are on the
on the
ceiling.
top.
So what are they doing on the top of the fuselage? I don't know.
Oh,
Very
It's
odd.
going for landing on the clouds.
Yeah, so I have no idea what kind of airplane it is. It doesn't look like a Cessna. It looks like some kind of model of airplane I've never seen.
Luscombe, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, interesting. Thank
Yeah,
you,
really lucky.
Ray and Robert. Can you imagine being on the? They didn't mention anybody on the actual ski lift. Maybe it wasn't actually operating because it doesn't look like there's any snow on the ground.
There's no snow yet.
Well,
I'll tell you, that is some rugged terrain.
It is. It's pretty, but rugged. It's pretty rugged. Bam.
He is. You're on fire today,
I'm
Captain
trying.
Nielsen. You're just on fire.
If you
I
only
can't wait to see him on fire.
those chilies I had last night. Yeah. D. Wrong kind of fuel was used in plane that crashed near Kokomo, Indiana. So this is kind of a baffling one to me, and I think anybody who knows anything about this. So basically, the flight surgeon, a well-known plastic surgeon in Tampa, Florida, was flying. I'm assuming it was his Aerostar. Not sure. An Aerostar 602P, Piper Aerostar 602P, which is a piston-powered airplane, not a jet turboprop airplane. Flew up from Tampa to Kokomo, Indiana, to give some flight instruction to someone up there, and he did that earlier in the day. And then when he was approaching, I guess, the FBO to have the airplane refueled, I guess one of the linemen who fuel airplanes said to him, his airplane looked a lot like a jet. Do you want jet fuel in your airplane? Now, maybe the plastic surgeon, Dr. Daniel P. Greenwald, thought that he was just joking around and being sarcastic, and he said yes. And when the pilot, I think he asked him a second time, are you sure you want jet fuel added to your airplane? And he said yes, a second time. Again, according to the lineman. We don't have the pilot here with us anymore to answer this question because.
And is there any corroboration to this conversation?
I don't think so.
No.
So I'm skeptical that the flight surgeon, I keep saying flight surgeon, the plastic surgeon, Dr. Daniel, actually told him to put jet fuel in the airplane. But again, a worker at the Kokomo Municipal Airport in Indiana put 163 gallons of jet fuel in the Piper Aerostar 602P, according to the NTSB report released on Thursday, a preliminary report. The Aerostar is a propeller plane with two engines designed to run on standard low-lead aviation gasoline. Let's see, what else did they want to say here? An employee at the Kokomo facility later told investigators that as Greenwald was approaching the airport in the Aerostar, the employee asked him if he wanted jet fuel. He said yes. The employee, who is not named in the report, told investigators he asked because the Aerostar looked like a jet airplane. When Greenwald arrived, the employee parked the fuel truck. Maybe this is when he was approaching the airport, and maybe he was talking on Unicom. And so when he actually was on the ground and approached the employee regarding this, again, he asked, do you want me to put jet fuel in the airplane? And he said yes. So he parked the jet fuel truck in front of the Aerostar while the doctor was still inside the airplane. The truck was marked with Jet A on the left, right, and rear sides. Anyway, so here's the problem. There are a lot of problems here. The fuel filler receptacle on the Aerostar, and much like cars or automobiles, I'm not sure what they were like over there in the UK, but
same as you guys.
Same, like, you can only
different
put one
nozzle for leaded and different for diesel.
Yeah.
So you can easily tell because the nozzle doesn't match the hole in the car.
So that would have been a red flag, right?
Yep.
To the fueler, that this jet fuel nozzle, which is much larger diameter, is not fitting into this receptacle. And so he spilled like a gallon, he says, of fuel before he was able to position the jet fuel. What do you call it? Spigot? No, not spigot.
Nozzle?
Nozzle, thank you. At a certain angle so that he could finally get the jet fuel to go past the device that only allows the 100 low lead nozzle in, and was able to get 163 gallons of fuel.
And I'm not a regular refueler or a pilot or fly one of these aircraft, but isn't it written right beside the filler cap?
That's
on the
what
wing?
I'm thinking too, but I don't.
Isn't it?
I don't know
Dana,
too.
you'd know this, mate. I mean,
I think
only because you
what
do a lot
should
more
say-
light aircraft flying than I do, but isn't it written right beside the refueling point? What fuel
It's
should
labeled
go in?
right there. It says
it should be.
100 LL, or it would say
avgas.
avgas, or a Jet A, a Jet A1. It says it right next to it's labeled. And actually, if I don't know that I've looked at the top of the wing on our airplane, but I would imagine by the fill valve, even on our aircraft, it would say Jet
On the
A1.
overwing,
Yeah,
not the single point.
Yeah, not single point, but the overwing. I imagine it would.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm pretty
yes,
sure it says it underneath as well as all the pressures and limitations, etc. But yeah, only from doing my own walkarounds, looking up there.
Yeah, I mean it's written. It's clear as day. So when I read this article, I felt as though there's a bit of the employee CYA covering his assets.
And it says he's like a city employee, so that's kind of odd to me too, because usually these fixed base operations are like private enterprises, but I don't know. I'm not sure what they have up there at Kokomo, Indiana. So anyway, he took off with the jet fuel, and I guess there was still enough avgas left in the lines to get the engine started and taxi out and take off. But shortly after he took off, I guess that's when the jet fuel hit the engines and didn't work out. He crashed and died.
Yeah, absolutely tragic. Now, I guess being the captain of the airplane, the buck finally stops with him, because it's your responsibility to make sure you know what fuel has been put on. I realize that if you did a check with the siphon, you would probably get avgas out. So, that wouldn't reveal to it, but I would have thought most conscientious pilots would watch their aircraft being refueled, or perhaps I'm being naive.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, Nick. It's a lot of times when I'm flying GA, I would watch, make sure the right truck pulled up in, or the right nozzle, but not all the time. I mean, if you have to go to the bathroom in a hurry, you may just say, do this and walk away. So I can't really comment for him, but I wouldn't say 100% of the time. You'd have, there's a certain level of trust that you'd say, put a certain amount of fuel on the airplane. And again, I still think there's some CYA going on here. I would let me start that over, because it's kind of irritating to me that somebody that is trained to fuel an airplane would then force a nozzle or try to figure out how to get a nozzle into a hole that it doesn't fit into.
Right.
And if there was any question there, I mean, it's a one source information right now. It's the person that fueled the airplane. The person that received the fuel is not here to talk about it. And I feel like I want to defend that person, because I find it very highly unlikely, especially if this guy flies his own airplane, that he would actually say Jet A on his piston-driven airplane.
Right.
It just makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah.
So,
and the only scenario I can see is if the guy sounds like he's being sarcastic or joking around, and you're just playing along. It's a jet fuel. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, but I don't think that's really likely. I think you're right. I think it sounds to me like there's some cover up going on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I suspect that'll found out in the courts because I can't imagine it won't go there in the end.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of he said, she said, or he said, how do you debunk what was said? There's no recording device.
The only witness is dead, or the only other witness besides the fueler. Apparently, I don't know. Okay, well, hopefully we'll figure out what happened there. And if anybody listening hears anything about this, please do send us feedback on this so we can talk about it on the show and inform everybody else. And then looks like item E, over in the UK, they plan to allow failed airlines to keep flying to repatriate customers. How would you say that, Nick? Repatriate?
Repatriation, yes, it would be.
Okay, we say repatriate for some reason, because it's just a little bit different.
Feel free, we don't mind.
Okay, thank you. After all, it is your English, correct?
I think now you have a version now which we have disowned.
Okay, Americanish.
Yes.
Let's see. Proposed changes to aviation rules following the grounding of Thomas Cook aircraft and crew. So we all know what happened. Thomas Cook was grounded, and it stranded more than 140,000 holiday makers. And the Civil Aviation Authority, the CAA, had to secure the use of 150 aircraft from around the world to operate nearly 700 flights at a cost of £100 million to the Exchequer. So what is that word, and what does it mean?
Sorry, whereabouts is it?
It's
the Exchequer, is that what you're referring to? The Exchequer.
I would have said the 100 million pounds to the taxpayers, but I don't.
The Exchequer. The Chancellor of the Exchequer is the man who controls all the money in our country. So the Exchequer is a money exchange.
And so I suppose then the money that he would be exchanging to pay for the 150 aircraft and crews and all that kind of stuff would probably
tax
be
pounds, yes.
Yep, taxpayers. So
yep.
Anyway, the government believes enabling the CAA to use an airline's existing planes and crew in future cases would mean there is less disruption and cost to taxpayers. So I can understand why they are proposing this. Any thoughts about that, Nick? Is that a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's a horrendous idea. I think you'd only have to ask Captain Al of his opinion. We talk a lot about the mindset of a pilot when he's getting in to conduct a flight, and how important for safety it is that his mind is 100% on his job, so he can deal with any problems, spot things that are going wrong. And a pilot that is preoccupied with the fact that he has lost his job and may actually, I don't know how this works with insurance, with all the other things that happen when an airline has been declared bankrupt, how you're supposed to generate the aircraft and keep them flying legally, and then ask the pilots, who really ought to be getting their poop in a pile and looking for jobs, to then continue to work for this airline they know is coming to a halt and that they are doing their last few flights, and they really want to jump ship and go and do it. How you'd get the pilots to do that, and why you would want to, when you've seen the emotion on Al's face when he even talks about Monarch going under. That was 2 years ago. And yet it still affects him deeply, and it affects, I saw some of the interviews of the Thomas Cook pilots, who were deeply troubled by the demise of their airline, and close to tears, if not worse. So how you then expect them to conduct the flight safely in that mental state, I don't know. I think this is so stupid. I can see it from a financial point of view. Someone's thought, oh, that's a good idea, but they really haven't questioned the other aspects of trying to do this.
What do you think the chances are that something like this is actually legislation is actually enacted?
I think very remote, personally.
Yeah.
I think there is too many barriers. First of all, in the legal aspects of who's going to insure these aircraft, how you're going to pay for it, etc., etc., and then where you're going to find the crews to fly them. If you could get crews from another airline, possibly, to operate those aircraft, that might work. But what airline's going to lend half its air crews to go off and fly?
Right.
And the aircraft may not be configured quite the same. So now you've got additional problems. Who's going to make sure all the software and things are kept up to date? Who's going to service these aircraft? Because all the engineers have lost their jobs as well, unless you, pardon me, using third-party engineering. So there are just too many variables here, all of which are based around an incredibly emotional moment in anyone's life. Now they've just lost their job.
Well, you make a lot of good points.
Well, yeah. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I really don't, because
Yeah.
I think it's plain stupid.
Oh, I get it. PLANE, stupid.
There you go.
That's actually going to be my new podcast.
Oh, we've already got it. You just need to rename this one.
Yeah, that's true. APG has changed to plain stupid. Okay. Yes.
I don't know why my video is frozen. By the way, I'm hardwired to the internet.
Oh,
You
well,
look very
it's a good
thoughtful,
pose.
though. Yeah,
You
it
do
is.
look-
It's a very good pose.
Yeah, it looks like I'm about to pass out. Actually,
Well, that's your normal look.
Yeah, I'll have to restart it here. I guess I don't know. But anyways, the moral of the story, I think, and I agree with Nick, is I can't see anybody wanting to willingly fly, knowing that their job is gone. I think that would really impact safety. I don't think that would be a mental state that should be certifiable to be okay to fly. I think that would be a disqualification, medically speaking, because your attention's not going to be to detail. It's not going to be to safety, and I think it would compromise the operation completely. They'd be much better off chartering another airline. There are several other airlines out there, including a couple that are based there in England. That would was that me or you?
It wasn't me.
It was me. Shut up.
Okay, right in the middle of myself. No, so I think they would be much better off chartering and bringing those people home that are still stranded, instead of trying to force people that are not going to get paid, that have no interest in safety, to fly aircraft.
Which is what the current system is. They charter aircraft from other airlines to do this work for them.
Yep.
I mean, apart from anything else, the aircraft are instantly assets of the receiver, whoever is looking after the assets of the bankrupt airline. And say one crashes, so you're gonna risk all those assets when they're supposed to be going towards paying all the debts of this bankrupt, or going towards paying the debts of this bankrupt. Well, you just can't do that. But I don't think anyone's really thought this through.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sounded like a good idea when they put it on paper.
Well, someone's had a knee jerk or something. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to see what you'll have to let us know, Nick, if something like that actually goes.
I think it'll quietly die a death, and we won't see. I think there are more important things as well on people's minds right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. And finally, item F. So Dana, we're hearing a lot of noise.
I'm trying to get this stupid thing to work here. I'm sorry.
Go ahead
You're
and
eating.
mute yourself, please.
You're eating chips. We can. Hear
Yeah, we hear you eat.
I'm actually not eating chips.
Well, you're eating something.
They're called Harvest Snaps.
Well, thank you.
You can't fool us. Yeah.
Harvest Snaps.
So, do you want me to mute you, or are you going to mute yourself?
He's muted himself.
Okay. Thank you. All right. NTSB releases preliminary report on the cause of fatal B-17 plane crash at Bradley International Airport. Now, that's kind of a bad headline, actually, because it's not a preliminary report on the cause of the fatal. It's a preliminary report on the crash of the B-17 at Bradley International Airport. And basically, it's just the facts that they've gathered so far. They don't make any attempt to come up with a cause or probable cause in the report. So,
but there are some interesting facts, I thought. the rough mag on the number 4. I think we had heard that the number 4 engine was the one that was giving them trouble.
Yes.
And a rough mag would cause a certain element of misfiring.
Mhm.
So that might be right. The fact that he said he was 300 feet above ground level, midfield right downwind leg. So
Mhm.
that's halfway down the runway on the downwind leg. So still traveling down in order to turn around and land. I haven't done many circuits recently, so I'd be right in saying that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
I think the
So
crosswind,
300.
the right crosswind was at about 500 feet, and then midway through the right downwind, they were at 300 feet.
Yeah, that seems to me a bit low.
Yeah, it does sound very low.
Yeah. So it
And
doesn't sound to me like they're getting a lot of performance out of the aircraft, because that's a 4-engine aircraft with one engine out, and it doesn't appear to be completely out because it's just rough running. It's lightweight. It's only got a few passengers. I don't suppose it's got heaps and heaps of fuel on board. You'd think it had quite reasonable performance on 3 engines.
you would think. Now
Certainly enough to climb. Sorry,
they did
Jim.
mention in the report that 2 of the 3 propeller blades on the number 3 engine were found in either feathered or very close to feathered position, which is kind of odd because they didn't mention anything about the number 3
I didn't
engine.
spot that. Yeah, what about the
Yes.
number 4 engine? What were the
Number 4
blades
engine,
doing?
all propellers were feathered on that one.
Oh,
So, so it almost seems that based on these facts that they only were getting power basically from the 2 engines on the left wing, and very little, if any, from the right wing. And I'm wondering if they were also experiencing trouble with the number 3, or if they, because the propellers are very close to each other, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row, and perhaps I'm just speculating here, of course, by feathering the number 4 and maybe perhaps bumping the number 3 propeller pitch,
could be.
that somehow that might have happened by accident. I don't know, or maybe there was really something going on with the number 3 as well. The other thing I thought was interesting, Nick, is that they made a point to mention the elevator jack screw, and based on not the elevator, the flap jack screw
Yeah.
that extends and retracts the flaps was found in a position consistent with retracted flaps. And
Flaps
that
up.
made me scratch my head. I'm thinking, well, I could see maybe having flaps retracted to have less drag, but on the other hand, your stall speed goes up quite a bit when you don't have your flaps extended. So
Yeah, I don't know what the B-17's flap configuration should be, particularly on
I don't
3
either.
engines. So, yeah, but it would seem to be odd to have a clean wing when you've got flaps available.
Right.
And the other thing is that it on a right-hand circuit?
Yes.
So he's flying into dead engines.
Yes.
Certainly the number 4 and possibly the number 3 as well. So that's going to give him handling problems on the final turn, isn't it?
Now I can see why they may have decided to do that direction, because on that departure, runway 6, the departure procedure is to immediately turn to a heading, I think, of 075, and I believe the tower gave them a 095 heading at some point. But so maybe they thought, well, I'm already turned this direction, so just keep it coming around this way. I don't know what he was thinking regarding, making his turns. And as you mentioned, probably the worst thing to do is to turn into the dead engines.
Yeah.
So,
And for those who don't fly multi-engine aircraft, when you've got engines out on one side of the aircraft, you try to avoid turning into the side with the failed engines, because the power from the live engines which you're using can give you a yawing and therefore rolling moment into that dead engine as well, into that dead side. So not only are you turning into the dead side, where if you need to put extra power on to keep your speed up, you're going to make the aircraft roll even harder into that dead side as well. So it becomes a bit of a vicious circle. So wherever possible, you with failed engines, you try and make all your turns into the live engines, so that if you put more power on, it straightens the airplane up, doesn't apply more bang.
right. Yeah, I'm hoping that they will be able to with the information they've gathered so far, be able to come up with an idea of exactly what happened here. But a lot of interesting factual information at this point, but I'm not really sure what to do with it.
Exactly right. And you know, in my heart, I'm desperately hoping that this fine crew, who were very well respected and deeply mourned in their loss, aren't found to have contributed towards the accident. I hope it's just a mechanical failure and that they're held blameless, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Dana, you there still, man?
Yeah, I'm going to restart my computer.
Okay. Have you tried unplugging and replugging in the camera?
Nope.
I would do that before I restarted. Because USB sometimes does odd things like that. There we go.
Oh, you're a genius, actually.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
No, you are, because I was about to close out the window, and
Yeah, sometimes USB does that.
I was going to go ahead and let you guys finish that nice conversation on this unfortunate circumstance and everything you mentioned, but turning into the dead engine is certainly a big problem, especially if you have two dead engines.
Yeah, somebody there, Kelly Kirk said, raise the dead would mean that you would have to make a left turn. So the raise the dead engines, that would be the way that you should turn if you had a choice. So,
yeah.
Okay. I think now it's time to take a little break. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, getting to love. Now, see, we have latency, Dana. You ruined it.
No, I didn't.
You added.
I ruined it by opening my mouth, and now I can't sing.
You added a certain level of character to that segment. Anyway,
start it over. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Okay, but I know that it's easy to forget that when you're not actually with me in the same space, because the little bit of latency really just sounds horrible. Okay, here we go. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, getting to hope you like me, and don't hate me for singing this. Okay,
I want to see you dancing around in a big ball gown the next time you do this, please.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. Depends on how much space it takes up.
It is from The King and I, isn't it?
It is, yes. And so Dana, instead of Dana singing this time, I just watched him mouth the words. But it's still a lot of fun. Excellent. So thanks for bearing with us on that. What has been going on with y'all? Captain Nick, let's start with you.
Well, luckily not a lot, so we can keep this relatively short and sweet. I've finished up the last of my Dam Busters Plain Tales, which is today, and thoroughly enjoyed this. I've already got the subject for the next one, so that's cool, and all to do with flying over a small body of water. And what else did I do? Interestingly, now my entire career, since I left the Royal Air Force and became a civil airline pilot, I've worn a pair of these glasses. So after a while wearing them, I thought, I wonder if I could wear contact lenses. And I was kind of put off the idea by my flight surgeon, you would call him, but by my AME, because he said, well, they're not ideal. They dry out a lot in an aircraft, so they, they become uncomfortable to wear. You've got to have the glasses anyway because you've got to have a backup system, and if they fall out on the approach, it can all get a bit embarrassing. Blah blah blah. So I looked at it and thought, nah, okay, I'll wait till I retire. So now I've retired, I can take a look at contacts. So I was in today looking at contact lenses, and I wanted some that looked like tiger's eyes, or I thought perhaps I could get some purple ones or some black ones, But sadly, they don't come like that. That's very disappointing. Apparently, that's just for movie people. But anyway, I messed about with them for several hours. And eventually the lady said, your eyes are getting too dry. We'll have to try again next week. So I'm still with my old glasses, but I'm trying to see how I get on with contacts, which is kind of new and not something I was able to do when I was an airline pilot. In the meantime, what else has been going on? Nothing really, other than coming up next week. Depends on when we have the show, but it'll probably be just after my old flying course that I was on when I joined the Air Force and learned to fly. We're trying to get some of number 4 course together. Now, they just redesigned the flying training system, and they'd started again with number 1, and ours was the 4th of the new system of flying training. So I was on 4 course, and we all had a fine time learning to fly at RAF Linton on Ouse, and that's a river called the Ouse.
Oh, okay.
So you can imagine.
That doesn't sound good to me.
Does it?
A river called Ouse. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you want to go swimming in the Ouse River? No, thank you.
It's in the middle of Yorkshire, and the lovely thing about it was it was very close to York, the town, which is a lovely town full of great old pubs, lovely beers in that area. They make some fantastic, the Theakston's Brewery, which makes some superb ales around there. And the other great thing about it was the nursing college at York and a Ripon teacher training college. So whenever we were having a big party in the mess, we used to put out a general invite to the young ladies of Ripon Teacher Training College and the nursing college to come and join us, which was always a hoot and a roll. Thank you, ladies. And if you are still around, and definitely won't be listening to this, but if you're going to send in any memories, can you just use my private email, because I don't want the wife to see.
Well, Pilot Pip says that there's a great ooze that runs right out of his nose. Oh, I'm sorry. No, right by my house. I'm sorry. I misread that.
Yeah. Excellent. So that's me, short and sweet.
Awesome. Hey, regarding the contact lenses, so I was thinking that that might be an option for me at some point, but it doesn't correct for, well, I guess there are some models or some types of contact lenses that actually are sort of like progressive lenses, right? So you can even see things close.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, they can go from reading through to distance vision. They probably don't give you quite as much acuity as glasses, and they have to be tailored to you, but and they're not cheap. It's like buying a pair of glasses every year, I would say, on average. So not the cheapest option, but if you don't wear them every day, you can make them last quite a while, and they become obviously a little cheaper. Or you can get one you wear just for 2 weeks and then throw away, or one you wear for a month and throw away. So that can be a cheaper option. So there are lots of variables here, but I'm so glad I'm able now to give it a go.
Well, I look forward to hearing how that goes.
It'd be nice not to have to clamp these on my head all the time. Just poke my finger in my eye every morning.
Okay. Yeah, I know. We're looking at Dana, and he doesn't have glasses yet.
Actually, I went and had my FA physical.
And you ran right into the door because you didn't see it.
I couldn't see it. Couldn't see a darn thing.
Because you've memorized the eye chart, haven't you?
No, I have not actually. I have my funny glasses on though, so that's why I couldn't see anything. I walked in with my blacked out glasses and my walking stick into the medical examiner's office.
What was the 2020 distant chart? FPOTEC, I think.
I have no idea.
I think. Not that I ever memorized it.
Yeah. Not that you ever did.
Dana, what have you been up to, sir?
Well, finished my trip up to Toronto. I forget where else I went. I can never remember where I went.
Yeah,
So
you were there when we recorded last.
last week. So Toronto. Then let me look it up real quick, and I can tell you what I did. So yeah, I had a deadhead to Jacksonville after I did my long day of Grand Rapids and back, and then deadhead to Jacksonville. I was a bit nervous when I came through security the following morning. I was hoping when I went through known crew member that I wouldn't get that randomizer, which is very active these days, because I don't want to have to explain the reason why I had 4 bottles.
You know, they probably wouldn't have said a thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had like 2 6-packs of beer in my rollerboard going through security.
These days, though, especially with what happened in Minneapolis.
I'm talking about just recently.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to have to explain myself, especially being a pilot and having alcohol.
I'm just telling you, I do it all the time. And
okay, well,
you don't say a thing about it.
You're
Really.
a lucky man.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's
because they would probably pull my bag apart. Sir, have you had anything to drink? No, I had 11-hour layover. Doesn't mean you didn't have anything to drink. I didn't have anything to drink. I promise you. They're all sealed. So, yeah, no, I went up through Toronto. And once you go through immigrations in Toronto, because we have U.S. immigrations and customs, then you go through duty-free. And they had the lady said to me, you are the luckiest guy right now. I said, why? She said, because we just got that shipment of Crown Limited in. It's the only place I know I can get it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's awesome. I had 2 bottles. I said, how many bottles can I buy? And I'm thinking about how much room I have in my bag.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, you can take as many as you want, really, because you're already through. I said, okay, well, how about 4? So I rolled 4 into my bag and made it work. So now I'm down to about 2 bottles since
a couple
days ago. Because I'm giving 2 away to friends, actually.
Oh, yeah, right.
I am.
Okay.
They're both lovers of that. So anyway, uneventful rest of the trip. I had my medical, as I had to mention, on Monday morning, and not an issue whatsoever. Blood pressure was good. The eye test was good without me cheating. Because I do not have that thing memorized, although most people do. I do still have 20/20. I'm very fortunate for that at my old age. And then went to a Acme event that was a 2-day informational information about what's going on with the company strategically worldwide and how things are going. And actually, they had most of our worldwide partner airlines were represented there. So it was interesting to meet a lot of our partner airlines, including Acme Red. They had vice president of something. He was there talking to the group with the Korean president and also the Mexico president. So it was very informative. We had a nice little shindig that evening, the first evening, where they fed us, and the food was fantastic. I actually had lobster rolls in Atlanta, and they were very good, being a good Boston boy. So if you're familiar with lobster rolls, it was amazing. And then it was a party all night long. Well, not all night, until 9 o'clock. They had dancing and music, and unfortunately, yours truly kind of tweaked my back a little bit. So I wasn't out there on the dance floor for change. So had to keep it low key. And then pretty much that's it. Just been enjoying some time off. Pretty easy.
Well, very good. Good. Let's see. Myself, I picked up an overtime flying trip on Monday and Tuesday. We were talking about the issues with certain airplanes like the 737, and the fact that I'm not really that disappointed that some of these things are going on, because it's going to possibly delay the fleet retirement that I'm on, because I'd love to be able to retire on this airplane, or get close enough where they just tell me, Jeff, just stay home and we'll just go ahead and pay you for the next year or whatever. But another airplane that we seem to having troubles with, the C series, or what we call the A220 now. It's I guess, what would you call it? It's not, I guess growing pains might be a way to describe some of the issues they've been having with it. And apparently they needed a good old trusty rugged Mad Dog to fly up from Atlanta. Actually, no, the Mad Dog crew, I was the captain on it, deadheaded up to Detroit. And the Mad Dog they put us in had been there for, I hear noise. Do you guys hear anything?
Very slight in the background.
That's interesting. Wonder where that's coming from. Almost like a radio, like a CB radio. Huh. Teething pains. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, maybe that's the best way to describe the issues that we're having with the A220. So, getting back to, I'm sorry, I'm easily distracted. We flew up to Detroit, and then the airplane. Oh, that's what I was saying. The Mad Dog had been there for, I don't know, a day or so, quite a while, just sitting there, not flying, and had an issue trying to get the APU started. And finally, we fixed that, and were able to get on our way and fly the passengers that would normally have been flying the A220 from Detroit to Dallas Fort Worth. And then we laid over there that night, and then flew it back the next morning, and then deadheaded back home. The deadheading part of it, not that much fun, but it was, as I said, overtime flying, which means that they paid me double our normal rate. So I was happy to help in that respect. And then normal trip this week. Yesterday we left for a 3-day trip and laid over here in Louisville yesterday. And then today was real easy, nice, just to Atlanta and back here to Louisville. And here we are tomorrow. Kind of the same thing. Nice, easy day back to Atlanta, and then a Greensboro turn. Actually, the last leg I think is a deadhead. Anyway, so yesterday I was able to meet up. I think I mentioned it on the last show, where one of these days I'm here in Louisville, that we were going to try to do a Louisville meetup. And Greg Peterson from, we call him Greg Big Ass Peterson. He was the guy that gave us all the swag and also the tour of the Very Large Donkey fan company. And Nick is on the video holding up his fan, because that's the name of the little stuffed donkey. And anyway, just watch the video, you'll understand. So Greg lives in Lexington, or the Lexington area, and he knew I was going to be here in Louisville. So he said, why don't we meet up at the, let's see, what was it called? Against the Grain Brewery and Smokehouse. And it was just Greg and I, which was nice. It would have been nice to have more folks show up, but it was kind of a last minute thing. But we enjoyed the brisket and the beer and our company together. So there you go. Thanks, Greg, for meeting up with me and driving the hour and 20-minute whatever drive over. Really enjoyed it. And that's about it. I can't think of anything else that happened that was interesting at all in my life. And I'm looking at I will be in Toronto on the 5th of November, and Liz suggested that we do some kind of a meetup there in the Toronto area. So she says to tell you that the details will be on Slack. So once we start kind of hammering out what we're going to do, where we're going to go, and all that kind of stuff, we'll let you know, and I'll mention it on the show as well. So that is about all that I can think of. If you want to see what's going on in the Airline Pilot Guy community, take a look at the APG community calendar, which is available if you're a member of our Slack team, or just find it on our great website, airlinepilotguy.com/calendar. And with that, I think it'll be time for us to go into the Java Jive. If I can find it. Here it is.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea, and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
All right, the Coffee Fund is your way, dear listener, to support the show financially. And you can do that by heading over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee, where you'll find out that there are a couple of different ways to join the Coffee Fund cadre. And that is, number one, the classic method, which is basically our PayPal contribution page. And since the last episode, a recurring donation from Terry Lou and a one-time contribution. Greg, you didn't need to do that. Greg Big Ass Peterson, sorry, Big Donkey Peterson gave us a nice contribution as well. So thank you, Greg and Terry, for that. If you want to become a patron of the show, you can do that by heading over to patreon.com/airlinepilotguy, and you can pledge a certain amount per episode. You can also specify a maximum amount per month so that you don't go broke. And information about all this stuff is over on the website, airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And trust me, you'll be glad you joined this great group of folks. And we will too.
Captain, incoming message.
Nick.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just wanted to mention that I'm drinking tonight Chiltern Monument Gold Pale Ale, and my great thanks to Mr. Neville of the Bounds, who provided this lovely beer for me tonight when he last visited my establishment and brought with him a whole crate of it. And I'm slowly getting through it. It's absolutely delicious. So many thanks, Nev. Sorry, sir.
Sir Neville of the Bounds Brewery.
Exactly, yes.
And nevtech.com.
Yes, very clever man.
Yes, he is.
And great provider of beer.
Oh, we got to love that. All right. Let's start with the first item in the feedback folder. Or no, wait, what were we going to do? We were going to maybe do the plain tale first?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That's,
Yeah.
yes, because we need the sick doctor to deal with these first few, don't we?
Right. Yeah. She's going to have to be here for the first two items. And
she's in charge of sick.
You know, I tell you what, why don't we do this? Let me do item 3 and perhaps number 4, and then we'll do the plain tale. And then maybe about that time, Steph will be able to join us.
Good idea.
We'll see. Okay. Number 3, Nick writes, let me see.
Wasn't me, honest.
Yeah, it was a different Nick. Let's see. Does he use his last name anywhere here? Yeah. No, he doesn't. Dear APG crew, Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, Captain Dana, Captain Nick, and producer Liz. Wow, he's very inclusive. I wanted to reach out and say thank you for the hard work that everyone puts into the APG podcast. I'm a very new listener, only joining in at episode 380, but I am totally hooked and certainly developing APG syndrome. I have a PPL, and I'm currently enjoying hour building whilst studying for my EASA ATPL theory exams and working full-time. I have to make a couple of long car journeys for work each week, and I love listening to the podcast whilst I drive to keep me company. More than anything, it gives me the motivation I need to knuckle down and study each day after work. I have a couple of stories, bits of feedback, which hopefully you and the APG community may find interesting. Oh, it's Nick Arander. Thank you. Who said that? Was that Liz that told us that in the background? Yes, thank you, Liz, the producer. And by the way, I think Nick, is he in our chat room? One of these chat rooms, I think he is. Anyway, and as long as we're kind of taking a pause from Nick's feedback, looks like that Dr. Steph is on her way home, but predictably, traffic is terrible. Okay, well, we'll hope that she is able to join us soon. Okay, so getting back to Nick Arander. Hey, if you're there, Nick, tell us how to pronounce your last name. I really am not sure. Yeah, he's in the Facebook chat room. Okay, yeah, spell it out phonetically for us. When I left university, I spent a great few years working for what we will call Bad Airways, whose headquarters is 500 meters northwest of London Heathrow Airport in what used to be their IT department as a software engineer. I think we all know what company that is. I used to work on, amongst other things, crew tracking and crew scheduling, rostering systems, and also the catering systems. During my time at what was the world's favorite airline, I was lucky enough to visit Acme headquarters in Atlanta on a business trip. Man, that place is huge. I was completely taken aback by the sheer size and scale of both Acme's operation and physical footprint of the campus itself. The colleagues I met from Acme were very welcoming and knowledgeable, and I truly did find it a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Certainly on the surface, it seems like an amazing company and institution to be a part of. Sadly, I didn't have time to go to the museum, but that's a great excuse to return. Let's see. Oh, this is a note to Neville Bound. Speaking of the Sir Neville, Bad Airways and Acme aren't even in the same alliance. I don't think that they even code share. How this visit came about is a long and quite frankly boring story about warehouses and IPA.
Oh, I like stories about IPAs.
Yeah, me too. Am I getting that right? And what does NB stand for? Does that mean that there's something I'm not supposed to be reading while we're doing the show?
Oh, no, it just means note. It's a side note to.
Side note. So I don't think that I've ever seen that before. I just, when I saw NB, I thought of Neville.
Probably short for some Latin phrase.
Nick, tell us what that means.
It means note well, NB from the Latin roots notare, or to note.
And not Neville Bounds? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Recheck that.
Well, unless Neville was a Roman, I don't know. Perhaps he has Roman roots.
Erander. That's the way. It's so. Oh, I would never have thought to pronounce that a long E.
Other people say it might be nota bene.
Nota bene. Nota bene. That's what Andrea Fox and John McElroy are saying. Anyway, hopefully this is back. This is Nick again. This is going all over the place. I apologize. Hopefully one day I'll make it to a meetup and I can regale it over a few IPAs. But in the meantime, we'll move swiftly on. Well, we actually will not, Nick, because I'm at the controls here, sadly. Okay.
By the way, have your lights gone out?
Something happened. It's all
You're
really
very
dark.
gloomy there.
Oh, well, the sun is going down. I guess it's only 4:30 here.
The sun stays still. The earth rotates. I hate to break this to you.
Oh, okay. So the earth has rotated to a point where I guess the sun is not coming through the window as strongly as
That's right. You've just turned to a little pink blob, but you're a very handsome looking, very pink blob.
Well, let's see here. Let me see if I can remedy the situation.
No, don't unzip.
Keep it down, Jeff. Keep it down.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Nick, you did mention while Jeff is over there remedying his situation, the one thing I did forget to mention about my past week is part of that whole Acme presentation. We got to have lunch in the museum, and it was amazing. First time I've been in there when it wasn't overrun with everybody, because the last couple times I've actually been in the museum was the Hops in the Hangar. So that was highly enjoyable. I think the last time Hops in the Hangar happened is when we all got together there. So it was a much more a relaxed atmosphere. And anybody that listens to the podcast, I would highly recommend going to the Acme Museum. It's quite an amazing museum, and you have full access to I see what's going on over there. He's like dancing and all types of things, and crooked camera. And so anyways, back to the Acme Museum. 747 that you can get into upstairs as well. They've taken out the floor on the main level to show some pretty interesting details, and you can access the full 767, the Spirit of Acme, and sitting there for old first class seats and see the 767 cockpit. So awesome displays there. So just taking off on what Nick was talking about, and Jeff is now back, and we can continue.
Well done.
I was just
Looking
I was
much
just
nicer,
I was just getting some airtime going for you there, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, it was looking like I was experiencing an earthquake here in Louisville. I don't know if they ever get earthquakes here or not, but anyway, so there we go. Hopefully that's a little bit better.
Right.
You guys are going to really have to help me out with this. He talks about something, well, in this paragraph. So here we go. I'm going to continue. Secondly, I still work full-time in IT while studying and funding my ATPL. And I guess what I came across whilst doing some training in DevOps, OODA loops.
Yay! Well done.
What was that again? I'm not sure I remember what that's.
The OODA loop was a loop of logic that John Boyd invented. So I'm trying to remember what it stands for, because I never learnt it. I've never been taught it, but it's someone's going to remind me in a minute. I could look it up, but needless to say, it's kind of observe, orientate, decide, and then act. So and then you go back to the beginning again and start the loop again. So it's creating, is observing what's going on around you, orientating yourself, deciding what your action is going to be, and then taking an action and starting again. But yeah, I think that's basically it. And John Boyd, sorry, was the inventor.
Oh, okay.
Subject of one of my plain tales.
Colonel John Boyd.
Yep.
And I don't know anything about OODA loops, but I do know something about Fruit Loops.
Yeah, he invented those two.
Oh, did he? Wow,
Yeah.
He was quite a man.
He was very clever.
Very clever. I listened to Captain Nick's Plain Tale on Colonel John Boyd a few days previously, and it was a pleasant surprise to see that OODA loops are indeed part of the foundations of the theory DevOps in IT practice. And was that developer operations? Is that what
development operations? I would have thought, yeah. Yeah.
As much as I would love to say I have a newfound interest in my present occupation, I very much look forward to the day where I can call myself a professional pilot, whether that's an airline FO or flying questionable cargo in equally questionable countries. Pilots at the Ukraine. Oh, never mind. I enjoyed following Dr. Steph's travels on Twitter in her quest to go to all 50 states before her father. Congratulations on making it to all 50. I just wanted to say that it totally counts if you're only ever been to an airport or near in that state. I had some great non-red trips, which took me interesting routings. I totally count South Korea as a country I visited, even though I just went through passport control and got my passport stamped and baggage claim, only to go back upstairs and check in at CX and fly to Hong Kong, HKG. What's CX?
CX Cathay Pacific.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
The airline is their 2-letter code.
Ah, okay. Finally, to Captain Nick. Like you, I learned to fly as an air cadet. I'm currently a volunteer with the organization, and I have no doubt your experiences and plain tales would be a great source of interest and also inspiration to young people who have an interest in aviation. If you ever had any spare time, you were willing to give the air If you ever had any spare time you were willing to give to the air cadets, I would be glad to put you in touch with friends and colleagues in your neck of the woods. Beards are now acceptable in the RAF, much to my local not-so-friendly warrant officer's unamusement.
That's very kind, Nick. But I actually served for 7 years as a civilian instructor with my local squadron down there in Petersfield. And also down at Borden. So I'm well acquainted with my local units. But I think after a while, you just get a bit too old to relate easily to the youngsters. And I always think they need to have people who are a bit closer in age. And I have many other hobbies now, so I'd love to give them a time, but I think I've done my bit. But thanks for the suggestion.
Translation, he's not interested. Just kidding.
Yeah, but I know where the units are if I have any spare time. So, but
I wish I knew where my unit was.
yeah, well,
I'll round off with a question to each of the APG crew. What is your favorite destination on your respective airlines network? Or in Dr. Steph's case, what is your favorite destination, period? And thank you again for all the great work you do in the aid of heavier than air flight. Keep the blue side up and tailwind strong. Yours ever, from what will hopefully be one day also Captain Nick. Very good. Very nice. Sorry it took so long. Wow, that took a long time, Nick, to read that feedback, and it wasn't your fault at all.
Yeah, it's going to sound really weird coming out in the podcast because Jeff's going to have trouble splicing that one together.
Yeah, I might just leave it as is. Who knows?
I would. I'd leave it just as it is.
Yeah. Okay, so
favorite destinations.
Favorite destination. Yeah, Steph says Steph, even though she's in traffic, she is participating, and she says she does not have a favorite. I'm not sure I do either, honestly. How about you, Dana?
Atlanta.
Just home.
Home.
Where mommy.
In all seriousness, we don't go there anymore, and it's not because I'm from that city, but I have to say, I have to honestly precurse that with that I don't fly international. I'm sure some of the international cities would be pretty cool, but because Boston really is a fantastic overnight. The location that we stay, the city is fun. There's lots of things to do. It's more of a European city than it is an American city in a lot of regards. It's just one of the more unique locations, I think. It's not, and I'm not saying that because I'm from Boston, but you talk to a lot of our crews out there, and they'd probably say it's probably in their top 5 for sure. Jeff's been there quite a bit. I mean, I don't know. We all have our different ways of defining what we like as far as overnights, and I'm thinking overnight. I mean, as far as favorite cities flying, completely different list. I mean, I can list off cities I prefer not to fly to, and overnights I prefer not, but a lot quicker than I can my favorites.
Cape Town.
Go ahead, Nick.
Cape Town. I always used to love Cape Town. I mean, the flights were horrid because we would inevitably, because it was such a popular place and we usually got a lot of time off down there, we inevitably have a lot of companions. So the cabin crew would invite boyfriends and husbands, and the pilots would want to take wives, etc. And there was sort of a lot of staff passengers trying to get on, and the flights were pretty crammed. You could often get there, and then there would be an awful bun flight trying to get everyone home. From the captain's point of view, jump seats were always at a premium, and that was always hard to turn, say to people, I can't invent seats. No, you can't sit on the toilet for takeoff and this sort of thing, The other problem was there aren't very many good diversions around Cape Town. So, you're always a bit concerned about any bad weather, but the weather factor usually was pretty good. It was a very long flight. But the actual destination, gorgeous. If you like wine, you like beaches, you like inexpensive but fabulous food, you like diving with great white sharks, all that kind of stuff. It was all down there. It was absolutely fabulous. The Table Mountain, always superb. It was just a fantastic place. But
diving with great white sharks.
Yeah, if you wanted to. Yes, we used to dine with them. Eat a few tuna heads with them. No, I went great white shark diving in a shark cage. Off the coast near one of those islands where there are a lot of seals, and the great whites come there in numbers, and they will come in right into the boat and float by, and you can be down there in the shark cage watching them. Well, you can reach out and touch them if you're lucky or keen.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Yep.
I do love the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and also the province of British Columbia. I think it's very beautiful. It's one of the prettiest parts of the United States and Canada, in my opinion. Yeah, but unfortunately, we don't it used to be a destination I got to quite often when I was flying the 727 back in the 90s. Went to Vancouver quite often, actually, but haven't been there in many years. But
Shame. My brother lives there.
oh, yeah, that is a shame. It's a shame that he lives there.
No, it's a shame that you don't go there anymore because my brother lives there and you two couldn't meet.
I knew what you meant. I'm just trying to be funny. Okay.
Give me a hint next time so I can remember to laugh.
Yeah. No, so how can I know when you're trying to be funny? Like I was talking to a flight attendant, I was joking around, then I was having to explain my joke, and I said, "Yeah, unfortunately, when you have to explain your joke, it's not really funny."
No.
Oh well. Item 4 from RC Pilot. Hello, APG crew. I go by the nickname RC Pilot, if you don't mind. No, he doesn't. He didn't put any kind of expression in that. I just read it that way. If you don't mind, a little about myself. I found your show about the 345-ish mark, and I've been keeping up with your show ever since. I'm also working my way backwards through the old episodes, currently at 166. Am I a little cracked in the head? Yes, you are, because you're listening to our show. I also fly RC helicopters, radio controlled, in my free time. See attached photo. He gave us a photo of a very nice looking radio controlled helicopter. And let's see, getting back up here. Being that machines like mine can cost $2,500 to $3,000 US, you can imagine that hobbyists like me are not the ones in the news shutting down airports. Yeah, I'll move on before I start ranting. I do have dreams of getting my private pilot certificate someday. By the way, Jeff, you're the one that taught me not to say pilot license. Yeah, but I actually have to stop myself from saying a private pilot license. I go, actually, here in the States, it's a certificate, but who cares? Now on to the news. On Friday, October 4, Piper PA-46 landed in the Susquehanna River just short of the Harrisburg International Airport due to an engine failure. I looked on the Aviation Herald website, but I didn't see it listed. And I wrote back to him and said, well, the reason why you don't see it on Aviation Herald is because they only cover Simon only covers Part 121 commercial airline kind of stuff, not private aviation like this. And let's see. Oh, he said, have the Going Green song ready. Okay. I'm getting it ready. Where is it? Here it is.
We're going green. We're going green. We're gonna take care of the earth. We're going green.
All right. In episode 166, you talked about it about airport beacons and the colors.
What?
Yeah, 166. Is that right?
What? I wasn't even on the show.
That's why it was so good.
Okay.
That's one was much better.
Yeah.
When you and I weren't on the show.
Yep.
Was Steph even here yet? I don't think so. Was she?
I don't.
That'd be really close.
I can't remember which one she was on first. Anywho, you talked about airport beacons and the colors they use, white and green. You stated you don't know why they picked those colors. I have a hunch that they picked green because green is easier for your eyes to see without losing your night vision. I use a bright green flashlight, not a laser, for fox hunting at night, and I find that my eyes don't have to adjust as much as they would with a red light. I might be miles off on my assumption, but that's just my 2 cents. Thanks for keeping me entertained, RC Pilot. And he said, P.S. You need to get the Wikipedia back again sometime. So he and the old curmudgeon, he had a lot of dots there. That's why I kind of paused. Can trade Boeing versus Scarabus barbs again. Sorry, Nick. I can't help it. So going to this article about the airplane that crashed in the Susquehanna River, like you can see 3 Mile Island in the background. I don't know if you're familiar with the 3 Mile Island incident, Nick, but
it was a nuclear meltdown incident, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was I don't know if it was a complete meltdown, but they had to shut down the reactor because I guess it was going to kind of be like a Chernobyl kind of thing, but they stopped it before it did. But it did leak some radioactive, what would you call it? Air radiation. Radioactive aviation.
Radioactive isotopes.
There, whatever. Anywho, and they. Well, you can look at this in the show notes, and you see the airplane in the river. And I guess it was kind of shallow where it ended up coming to a rest. It was, as you mentioned, a PA-46. What was his question about that? Or maybe he just wanted to.
He's just talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Looked like they just lost power and couldn't make it back to the Harrisburg International Airport. And I don't know what else to say about that.
I see that they were transported to the Hershey Medical Center. Now, if you're being transported to the Hershey Medical Center, then you would probably be a skinny person, because when you leave the medical center, being it is Hershey, you probably eat all that chocolate and be fat.
Wow. And I thought my jokes were bad.
I couldn't go there, that's for sure. I wouldn't fit. I fit in the door going in. I would not fit out in the door coming out.
I was going to say something else, but this is a
family show.
Family show,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
Okay. Well, thanks, RC Pilot, for your first time feedback, and I'm sorry about the syndrome, but keep listening, and maybe someday we'll come up with a cure. And,
So, night vision colors.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I always remember being told by the aviation doctors that used to lecture us when we were down at North Luffenham that red light was very good for maintaining night vision, because it's at the top end of the spectrum, and you'll find that on a submarine or something, they will always turn the lights to red before they go up onto the deck to, what do they call that, conning tower, at night, so that their eyes can get adjusted to good night vision, and then they go up and they don't find themselves unable to see anything because it's very bright. And a color which you see very easily at night is green. And the old joke was, so, if you're going to jump out of an airplane at night, the last color you see is a bright green light. So it immediately destroys your night vision just as you leap out of the airplane. Now, I'm actually reading a bit here on Wikipedia that says that green is used, of course, in low vision goggles and things. That maybe is that your eyes are sensitive to it, and they want to keep a color that keep the intensity of the night vision goggle display down to an absolute minimum. So because your eyes are sensitive to green, that's a good color to choose. But you'd have to turn red light up quite bright to be able to see it if everything was on your NVGs were colored green. But I always understood that green is easy to see, and red is one that preserves your night vision.
That's what I was always told as well. The Roy G. Biv model of the colors in the spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And I think that red has the least amount of energy. Green seems to be like right in the middle of that spectrum.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as you mentioned, the violet is going to be the brightest, I think.
Well, that's the bottom end of the other end. But apparently, blue-green is the one of the colors that are easiest to see.
Oh, okay.
In that area, but
well, obviously, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh no, I think it's just the ones that are at the edge of the spectrum are the ones. That's the limit of your vision. So if you want to go down to the purple, you're reaching the limit of your ability to detect. So it's not ideal, I would have said.
Okay.
It's funny when I hear you guys talking about this, because the colors of the spectrum when you're scuba diving, the first colors you lose are the red, the yellows, and the oranges. And then, as you descend, the blues and greens are predominant. And then, of course, as you go through the spectrum, looking further deeper, sunlight's more absorbed, and then, of course, the blues, and then into the purples, and then obviously black, the abyss. So It's interesting how it all correlates.
Oh, it does, because I guess the shorter wavelengths are filtered out, and the shorter wavelengths are the reds and oranges and yellows, and the longer wavelengths penetrate for deeper. So that brings in all the blues.
Yep. So it's interesting how there's a correlation there.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm even talking about it.
Do-doom, do-doom. I love the blues. All right. Guess what time it is?
Plain tale.
Yes.
Oui.
Time for the old pilot's plain tales. Here we go. The last installment of Après moi le déluge, part 4.
The old pilot's plain tales. Après moi le déluge, part 4.
This is London. The Air Ministry have just issued the following communique. In the early hours of this morning, a force of Lancasters of Bomber Command, led by Wing Commander G.P. Gibson, DSO, DFC, attacked with mines the dams of the Merner and Sorba reservoirs. These control 2/3 of the water storage capacity.
It was the night before the big show, and Wing Commander Guy Gibson, Squadron Commander of 617 Squadron, was heading to bed when he got the bad news. Look here, Guy, I'm awfully sorry, but your dog has been killed. He's just been run over by a car outside the camp. Gibson went back to his room on the eve of this operation with his dog, the squadron mascot, gone. He was alone, looking at the old scratch marks on the door and feeling very depressed. The preparation for this attack had been intense, and this was just another thing to worry about. Gibson was already troubled by intense pain in one of his feet, an attack of gout, but he couldn't let anything distract him now. There was too much at stake. The next day, the 16th of May, recce aircraft overflew the dams, and they looked unchanged. Met aircraft had flown well out over the Atlantic to see what weather was coming towards Germany, and the reports were also good. The tannoy sounded. All crews of number 617 Squadron report to the briefing room immediately. The crews were to be finally briefed about their targets. They came in hushed, having waited 2.5 months to find out about the attack. 133 young men, old-looking and careworn despite their age, but experts, beautifully trained, and each one of them knew his job. Wallace stood and quietly explained about the principles of the bouncing bomb and how it could defeat the enormous dams they were to attack. He told them that it was not going to be easy, and everyone understood what he was trying to say. At the same time, they were relieved to know at last what they were going to attack. This was not going to be too bad, they thought. That afternoon, everyone tested their aircraft, and there were tractors driving around carrying the big upkeep mines which were to be fitted to the Lancs. The damage done during the dress rehearsals was being rapidly repaired. A new turret here, replacement fins and elevators there. The death of Gibson's dog was kept quiet, as it might be felt as a bad omen, but Guy asked Chiefy Powell to bury him outside his office at midnight. It would be just as they were crossing the enemy coast. Then it was time to brief the operation in detail. The AOC gave the boys a bit of a pep talk. You're off on a raid that will do a tremendous amount of damage, he said. It will become historic. The operation had been kept very secret. Not even Fighter Command or their own group headquarters knew they were operating that night. The first wave would consist of 9 aircraft, led by Gibson, and they were going to hit the Mona Dam first, and then move on to the Ida and Sorp dams in turn. The second wave of 5 would go straight to the Sorp, whilst also acting as a diversion for the main attack. When they got to the Sorp, they were to fire off very lights and generally create a disturbance. The third wave of 5 would depart 2 hours later to provide backup. The crews had time to study models of the dam and look at their routes in detail until they had committed them to memory. Then it was time to grab a meal at the mess, followed by an hour or two of rest. Gibson was tucking into his eggs and bacon when Dingy cracked the well-known joke. "Can I have your egg if you don't come back?" Each crewman was allowed to have an egg after a successful operation, and rationing being very strict, they were a scarce commodity. When it came time to climb into the transport to head out, it was a strange scene. The adjutant recorded. It was not like any ordinary operational scene, all the crews on this occasion being aware of the terrific task confronting them. Gibson's favourite Yank, Flight Lieutenant McCarthy, caused quite a disturbance. He arrived at his aircraft to find it had leaking coolant and came dashing back to the only reserve aircraft. He pulled his parachute by mistake, and the white silk was streaming all over the ground, trailing behind him. With perspiration dripping off his face, good old Mac ran to his aircraft, with everyone behind him trying to fix him up. He got off just in time. At exactly the right moment, Hutch fired a red berry light, and all the aircraft started up. The AOC walked Gibson to his machine and wished him the best of luck. An RAF photographer came running up and asked to take a picture. Then Gibson taxied out onto the runway in formation and stood there, waiting to take off. Someone at the control caravan waved a flag. Throttles were opened up, and they were off to Germany. Gibson's navigator spoke. 5 minutes to go to the Dutch coast, Skip. At only 100 feet over the water, the Lanks, flying in tight formations, droned on through the night. Gibson replied, "Stand by, front gunner. We're going over. Okay, all lights off. No talking. Here we go." They were a little off course, but luckily the German gunners were half asleep. Flying as low as they dared, a couple of times Gibson had to pull up sharply when someone spotted trees or high-tension wires. They were following the glinting moonlight of a canal, and as they crossed the German frontier, the nav said, "We'll be at the target in 1 hour and a half." They were the only bombers airborne that night, and if found, they were going to receive the undivided attention of the Luftwaffe. The first casualties came from the second wave and were received before they even crossed the Dutch coast. Jeff Rice flew too low over the sea and hit the surface. Amazingly, he bounced back into the air, but his mine had been torn from the belly of his aircraft, and he had lost both outboard engines, so he was forced to turn back. Munro's Lancaster was hit by ground fire, which destroyed his radio, so he too had to return. With the anti-aircraft gunners now fully awake, the Canadian Vernon Myers aircraft crossed the coast, but was then hit by flak and shot down. Barlow's crew missed spotting some electricity pylons, and hitting them, he also crashed. From that formation, only the American Joe McCarthy survived to cross the Netherlands. Now into Germany, again the dangers of low flying were to claim another Lancaster when Dave Astle was blinded by searchlights and hit high voltage cables. His aircraft reared up and then plunged into a field, bursting into flames. A few seconds later, the mine blew up with a huge explosion. But at last, Gibson had arrived at the dams. The Mona looked squat, heavy, and unconquerable in the moonlight, and immediately they were showered by flak from all along its length. He circled his formation around, picking up landmarks. Everyone but Astle was there, and at the same time, Joe McCarthy had begun his diversion attack on the Saw. "Well, boys," said Gibson, "I suppose we had better start the ball rolling." They came in down moon over the hills and dived towards the black water. They could see the towers, sluices, everything. "Check height, Terry. Speed control, flight engineer. All guns ready, gunners. Coming up, spam," the bomb aimer. With the spotlights on, the calls came. "Down, down, down, steady, steady." They were exactly at 60 feet. The flight engineer was working the throttles, keeping the required speed. Spam turned the bomb fuses on and began sighting on the towers. The flak started up, with tracers swirling towards the Lancaster, some bouncing off the water, kicking it up right in front of them. With gritted teeth, Gibson told his engineer,
"Stand by to pull me out of the seat if I get hit."
The aircraft felt very small as it approached the huge dam.
"Left, a little more left. Steady, 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 coming up."
Tracer flashed past the windows. The dam was getting very close when
"Mine gone."
someone said over the radio.
"Good show, leader. Nice work."
The tail gunner was spraying the dam as they passed over it, and then as they circled around, they saw a huge 1,000-foot column of whiteness hanging in the air from where their mine had exploded. The water on the dam looked as if it was being lashed by a gale, and great sheets of it slopped over the wall. Hoppy Hopgood came in next, and Gibson noted that German fighters had arrived in the area, but they were flying too low for them. They couldn't get down to them or see them in the darkness. Hoppy descended over the trees and ran across the water, approaching the dam when a long jet of flame began to stream from his wing. He'd been hit. His mine dropped, but it wasn't aimed well, and it bounced over the dam wall and onto the powerhouse below. Hoppy began to climb to try and get his crew out safely, but then there was a livid flash and the wing broke away, the aircraft disintegrating as it fell to the ground in a cascade of flaming debris. Moments later, with a tremendous explosion, the mine went up behind the powerhouse. In the aftermath of this, Mickey Martin had to attack, which he did with calm efficiency. And again, there was a giant explosion that spewed water high into the air, but still the dam stood, although Gibson felt sure it had shifted back a bit. Mickey had been hit and lost a lot of petrol from one wing, but he seemed okay for the moment. Now it was Mervyn Young's turn, and whilst he lined up, Gibson flew his aircraft across the dam, drawing the flak away and hosing the towers with machine gun fire. Mervyn's mine hit exactly in the right spot, and he was convinced the dam had gone, but when the water settled, it was still standing, unbroken. Back in the operations room at Scampton, Barnes Wallis sat with his head in his hands. The Air Officer Commanding and the Commander-in-Chief of Bomber Command were pacing up and down, and with each code word that came in signaling a successful drop, they hoped for the best. But as more and more mines hit without a breach, Barnes' head drooped lower and lower. Dave Maltby made the next attack, and again the mine worked perfectly, filling the air with spray until it became hard to see what was happening below. Gibson called in the next aircraft, but then someone shouted,
"I think she's gone! I think she's gone!"
"We came down for a closer look," said Gibson, "and there was a huge breach in the dam some 100 yards across, and water was gushing out and rolling into the Ruhr Valley towards the industrial centers of the Third Reich." Now it was all quiet, except for the roar of the water, which steamed and hissed its way out of the reservoir through the massive breach. The crews began to shout and scream and act like madmen over the radio, for this was a tremendous sight, a sight which probably no man will ever see again. The whole valley was beginning to fill with fog from the steam of the gushing water, and down in the foggy valley we saw cars speeding along the roads in front of this great wave of water which was chasing them until their headlights disappeared as the water overtook them, wave by wave, the color of the lights underneath of the water changing from blue to green to purple. The floods raced on, carrying everything with them as they went: viaducts, railways, bridges, anything that stood in their path. The code word for a successful breach of the Mona was sent, and the exhilaration and relief that the crews felt was reflected by great excitement in the operations room as Barnes Wallis jumped up and danced around. After a few minutes, Gibson took 5 of his formation and set course for the Ida. Fog was forming, and this was going to be the hardest dam to attack because of the terrain. Time was also getting short as dawn was approaching. Again and again the Lancasters attacked, many times aborting their approach, as it was devilishly difficult getting down from over the high hills to the surface of the water in time. Henry Maudslay's mine hit the dam parapet and exploded beneath him. The aircraft disappeared, and everyone thought the worst. In fact, although badly damaged, they had set off for Scampton, only to be shot down a while later by flak from the Rhine town of Emmerich. Dave Shannon made a successful attack, and then, with the final bomb that they had, the Australian, Les Knight, made a perfect attack, and his mine shook the base of the dam. Then, as if a giant hand had punched a hole through cardboard, the whole thing collapsed, and a great mass of water began running down the valley into the castle. Digger was very excited and kept his radio transmitter on by mistake for quite some time. His crew's joyous exclamations were something to be heard, but not repeated. Attacks went ahead on the Sorpe Dam, but by its nature, it was going to be a difficult job. The bombs cracked but failed to breach the dam. On the return flight, one more Lancaster was lost, that of Dinghy Young, who was hit by flak crossing the Dutch coast, and he crashed into the North Sea. This time, his habit of returning home in a dinghy was to fail, as all on board perished. Of the 19 aircraft dispatched, only 8 returned, carrying 77 men from the initial 133 who took off. 53 men died on Operation Chastise, with 3 surviving by a miracle, only to be taken as prisoners of war. 13 of those killed were members of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and 2 belonged to the Royal Australian Air Force. Of the survivors, 34 were decorated at Buckingham Palace on the 22nd of June, with Gibson awarded the Victoria Cross. There were 5 Distinguished Service Orders, 10 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 4 bars, 2 Conspicuous Gallantry Medals, 11 Distinguished Flying Medals, and 1 bar. The raid received enormous publicity at a time when British morale was at a low point, but some believed that it was oversold and its achievements exaggerated. Even Bomber Harris wrote later, "I've seen nothing to show that the effort was worthwhile, except as a spectacular operation." Time has, however, thrown up a wealth of information about the impact the attack made. The Dam Busters raid, referred to by the Germans as the Mona Catastrophe, was, according to Albert Speer, a disaster for us for a number of months, and resulted in a 400,000-ton drop in coal production in May 1943 alone. German reports describe considerable losses of production caused by the lack of water, and that many shaft mines, coking plants, smelting works, power stations, fuel plants, and armament factories were shut down. The fact that a titanic effort had to be made to repair this damage shows how high a priority the dams were, and it meant resources were shifted from elsewhere. Nowhere was this costlier to the Third Reich than on the beaches of Normandy. Hitler had ordered the construction of massive networks of defense against an Allied invasion, but thousands of workers who should have been toiling in France were now being redirected to the Ruhr to repair the dams. At the time, no raid mounted by so few aircraft had caused such extensive material damage. There's no doubt that the story of the Lancasters of 617 Squadron is utterly remarkable for so many reasons, and the skill and bravery of the crews who flew that night is undiminished by time.
I love that music. What is it? The Dam Busters March?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm pretty sure it was actually written for the movie, but has been adopted by the RAF because it was so good. And it certainly suited the movie and the mission itself. But of course, the 617 Squadron was to continue to be very famous. It carried on doing special raids, carrying the big bombs that Barnes Wallis had invented, the Grand Slam and the Tall Boy, and gained in skill, and always was to be a special squadron, and still remains so. Because of course it's the first squadron in the Royal Air Force to be equipped with the F-35B fighters that we have obtained from you guys. And at the end of the Dam Busters raid, the King awarded the squadron its special motto, "After me the flood, après moi le déluge," and its squadron badge, which is of course lightning strikes on a dam and that sort of thing. So yeah, it carries a lot of fame with it, that squadron.
Well, I have to admit, I don't think I've ever watched the movie, and now I'm definitely going to have to.
Well, the movie, as my story was, is based very closely to Guy Gibson's book, Enemy Coast Ahead, which he was forced to write when he was effectively grounded after the end of this raid, because they thought he was too famous a man now to risk. But despite that, he managed to get himself back in the air. And of course, we know what happened then. This last operational mission was a tragedy for him. But yeah, he was a remarkable man. And a lot of the quotes that I use there are actually taken from that book and from his own words.
So are you saying I should read the book before I see the movie?
No, I know. You'll find the movie follows the book very closely.
Okay.
It's actually one of the few. It's an Academy Award winner, and is certainly in the UK, because we know it so well. It's voted in the top 50 best movies ever made.
Excellent. Well, I'll look for it. I'm sure it's easily accessible out there on all the.
I purchased it for like $3 from Amazon, I think.
Oh shoot! I
could watch it again, and of course they have a nice high definition version nowadays, so
yeah,
not bad. You'll have to excuse the special effects, which are about appropriate for 1955.
Well, for that time, it was probably pretty good.
Yeah, they took some real Lancasters out of mothballs and flew them around for the movie, so they are real Yanks, real Lanks, not Yanks.
And how many engines are on those?
4.
Oh,
hey, got it right. As opposed to the Liberator.
I'm not sure anybody would have noticed that error, but you pointed it out because you are concerned about accuracy, as we are here.
Well, as long as I can reach my 50%, I'm happy.
Yeah, me too. That was funny. Sean, my first officer, when he's doing the engine start, he verbalizes a lot of things, and when the engine on the JT8D stabilizes at 50%, he goes 50%. Time he says that, I go, yep, that's what we shoot for on the APG.
Yeah, that's very good. Excellent.
All right. What do you say we go into or do number 5, which is some audio feedback from Brian in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. Take it away, Brian.
Hey, APG crew. This is Brian from Tulsa. Just wanted to call in and give you guys an update on what's been going on in my training. But before I do that, I apologize for all the noise in the background. I'm currently at work waiting on an ice machine to go through a cleaning cycle. So last time I called in, I was a Private Pilot Brian. And now I'm happy to say I'm no longer Private Pilot Brian. I am Commercial Pilot Brian.
Yay, that's awesome.
The check ride went pretty well. It's the hardest check ride I've done so far as decision making. Day one we had to discontinue. We got the oral portion done, but the ceilings never lifted. They were kind of right at where we could do it, but it'd be pushing how comfortable I am with ceilings and how the altitude we'd have to maneuver in. So we decided to go back for day 2, and day 2 is not ideal either. The wind was pretty stout for a Cessna 172 on a check ride day. I think we were at, 14 gusting to 20 at some airport reporting stations. So I went ahead and risked it and put faith in myself that I could handle it. And sure enough, I did. The only issue I really had, and it really wasn't an issue, it was just another challenging decision. On the power off 180, I had quite a bit of headwind. I think, like I said, around 20 knots. So coming off, I was coming down pretty quickly. And we get to the runway and aiming for the 1,000-footers. And we're over the numbers, and I'm just about to touch down. So I lay in all the flaps, try to float it, and it's just not floating. So at that point, I made the decision to go ahead and go around, which my DPE said was a very good decision. We came around and tried it again, and slipped it in and landed right on 1,000-footers. So happy to have that box checked and move on to the next one. Currently in multi-engine training towards the end of that. Passed my commercial about 2 weeks ago now, and hopefully we're going for a multi-check ride this weekend. We are trying to get the DPE scheduled. So I just wanted to call in and give you guys an update, and thanks for all the hours of entertainment you guys provide for me. Bye.
And I thought my refrigerator made a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll try to do some work on that audio for the audio only version of the show. I can probably remove a lot of that and then we can hear Brian a little bit better. But congratulations, Brian, on getting your commercial. And I hear you're working on your multi-engine. Perhaps it's, I don't know, when did he send this in to us? Not that long ago, I don't believe. So he's probably still working on the multi-engine. Great to hear about your progress.
Absolutely. It's great news. So keep it going, old chap. And please don't worry about going to a quiet room to make your recordings, everybody. We loved hearing those fridges, and they're all perfect. And have great ambience.
The ice machine being cleaned. Is that what he said?
Yeah, it's going through its cleaning cycle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, just keep up the good work. Good things come to those who work hard for it. So, yeah, all in good time. We need pilots, so keep it up.
Persevere. All right. Item 6. Private Pilot Rollo visiting Betsy's Biscuit Bomber. Greetings, captains and Dr. Steph. Private Pilot Rollo here. I apologize ahead of time for the long-winded feedback. I wanted to start by saying that it was a pleasure meeting you all at Osh Blast 2019. I've been a listener now for 2 years and have enjoyed every episode. So attending Oshkosh for the first time and meeting the 4 of you in person at the same time was a rewarding experience. I want to highlight a few things that came out of Oshkosh. First, a big thanks to Captain Nick for gifting me his Boeing lanyard. As the old saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
You're very good.
It was an honor. Yeah, it wasn't a great sacrifice, Rollo, as you know. It was an honor to accept your gift, sir, and I will cherish it for many years to come. Second, thank you, Captain Jeff, for adding the Airline Pilot Guy song at the end of each podcast once again. I'd like to think you did so because I mentioned to you how much I enjoyed and missed the closing song. Well, actually, honestly, it is exactly for that reason that I added it back, because you said, man, you got to put that thing back. I love that. I went, okay, done. And let's see, where did I leave off here? Lastly, I managed to squeeze in the front row of the group picture/cover of APG 385 to the right of Captain Dana. Overall, Oshkosh was an amazing experience that I hope to repeat in the future and hope to see you all out there once again. On a slightly different topic, a few weeks ago, on a flight from the Bay Area down to your old stomping grounds in SoCal's Kilo Sierra November Alpha, which is Santa Ana, which is John Wayne, Orange County Airport, my girlfriend and I decided to make a pit stop at Paso Robles He says pronounced Robles, not Rubbles. Yeah, I know that. And
I thought that's where Barney Rubble was named after in the Flintstones. No?
That's
Oh, okay.
Peso Rubbles.
Oh, he was the Mexican Barney Rubble.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yabba dabba doo. And pay a visit to Betsy's Biscuit Bomber. Although I currently live and fly out of the Bay Area, I grew up in Salinas, California, only minutes away from our municipal airport, Kilo Sierra November Sierra, and a mere 76 nautical miles northwest of Paso. Although I grew up visiting Paso Robles from time to time and had flown into their airport a few times before, I had no idea it was home to such awesome aviation history until Nick Camacho enlightened me via this podcast. I wanted to visit Betsy's Biscuit Bomber before she made the journey over the pond for the D-Day celebrations. However, I was unable, so when this opportunity came up, I took it. The flight there was on a Saturday morning, and when we landed our Bug Smasher 172, we taxied right up to the Estrella Warbird Museum. We found the C-47 parked at the edge of taxiway Foxtrot near the runway 31 approach. My girlfriend and I walked around it and took a couple of pictures, which I've attached to this email, before exploring the rest of the static outdoor displays. On our way back to our aircraft, I spotted one of the crew members, a gentleman named John, who was closing up the C-47. We briefly chatted with him and told him Nick had kept us informed of the aircraft and the crew's journey over to Europe. As we taxied out for departure, we witnessed our very first glider towing evolution. They took off ahead of us, and we sat there and enjoyed every minute of it. That was a great way to end our brief visit to Paso Robles, and I wanted to share it with all of you. Nick Camacho, if you're listening, I hope to run into you during a future visit so I can thank you in person for the great insight. Until next time, wishing the crew endless IPAs, bourbon, and no rowdy passengers or patients to Dr. Steph. Regards, Private Pilot Rollo. And he, as he said, included a couple of great pictures of he and his girlfriend in front of the Betsy's Biscuit Bomber, the C-47. Really, what a beautiful day there, too. Not a cloud in the sky. Beautiful blue sky.
Definitely.
Put a link to this in the show notes so you can check it out. And it was a pleasure meeting you and your girlfriend as well at Oshkosh. And as I mentioned, yes, you're the reason why that, what is it, No More Airplanes or something, I think was the title of that, from the intrepid Miami Hick. I came up with that song for us a little while back. And we miss you, man. Miami Hick, if you're still out there listening. And Miami Rick, or anybody that has a name that starts with Miami. We miss you.
Yes. I'm very glad my Boeing lanyard's going to good use.
Yeah, I know you miss it.
Oh, yeah, terribly.
Yeah, you can see the tear. He's welling up, and I can see the tears starting to come.
Tears of happiness.
Private Pilot Rollo is, absolute pleasure meeting you as well. And I'm sorry you had to stand next to me. I mean, the camera was definitely broken after that photograph, so yeah. I apologize for that. But anyways, great meeting you. Congratulations. What a beautiful day, and what a fantastic photograph for you too. So, yeah, good.
All right, moving on to 7. Someone named Liz sent this in. What a strange name that is. Hi, crew. Since I consider myself a bit of an idiot when it comes to identifying planes, I found this article interesting and potentially helpful in helping me become less of an idiot. I think others in the APG community might find it useful as well. Cheers, Liz. And the guide is An Idiot's Guide to Identifying Airliners. And it has all kinds of good stuff in there. Starts off with the Boeing 2707, the 2707, which never happened, the supersonic transport, the SST, that Boeing was thinking about building, but never did. And let's see. I don't know. I went through, I didn't see the whole thing yet, but I did notice that most of it's pretty accurate. But at one point they say something like, if you see engines with the scalloped edge on the back, well, that's a Dreamliner. Well, maybe for a little while that is true, but the newest version of the 747, the Dash 8, have 4 of these engines that have the scalloped edges along the backside of the nacelle. So, yeah, for someone who doesn't really know airplanes, they might see those scalloped edges and say, "That's a Dreamliner." Nope. Anyway, it is helpful. Another error that I saw there was it says the 777. If you see the landing gear that have, let's see, 12 tires on each truck, that's a 777. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the Dash 1000 version of the A350 also has 12 tires on each of the main landing gear. Is that correct?
Yep. It's got triple
bogies on each.
Yep, on the main gear.
Yeah. But anyway, overall, I think it's pretty accurate, and it will be very helpful to those of you out there that have trouble identifying airplanes. So
comically long and skinny. I don't like this bloke. He's
Yep.
pulling the A340-600, one of the most beautifully proportioned aircraft that has ever flown, comically skinny. It's not. It's perfect. Twit. Twit. What a twit.
It is long and skinny, but it's in a beautiful way, I think. It is very sleek.
It's appropriately long.
Yes. Well, hang on.
That's what she said.
Yes. There you go.
Anyway, so check it out. We'll have a link to this in the show notes, and you can be less of an idiot when it comes to identifying planes. And I think that every journalist out there that's listening, which is probably zero, should probably look at this too, if you care about accuracy, or at least 50% accuracy. Item 8, Donnie. Hi, Jeff and crew. My name's Donnie. I'm 25. I'm a big listener. I owe a great deal to the APG podcast in stopping my procrastination and taking the leap to begin my PPL. I am not from a wealthy background and have planned since I was young to get a good job and fund my own training. I'm from Belfast. I don't know why I said Belfast, and have found my local flight school to be too small, few instructors, and aircraft to go around. I work in financial services and have since got offered a position in Dublin, which will pay much more and in turn accelerate my flight training. I'll be relocating and using the nearest flight school there, which is much bigger. However, the inverse to the pay increase means my new role will be more demanding and take up more of my time, with only weekends available for flying. I was wondering if the crew or anyone, you guys, Dana, Nick, or Steph, knows anyone who has become a self-made pilot, juggling personal life, a professional career, and the commitment to flight training. Keen to hear your views and advice. Donnie.
Yeah, me. I'm raising my hand, Donnie. I am that guy. That's how I have succeeded and made my way up into the majors. And at one point I was working 4 jobs to put myself through school and flight training. So I get it. I understand. It's a massive juggle, but the pickings at the end of the rainbow is actually pretty good. Once you get here, it's not so bad. So it's going to take a little sacrifice on your part to get through it. But as long as you keep
Hey, Julie.
Sorry.
Julie's home.
Julie's home, I guess. I'm sorry about the background noise. Anyways,
the ice machine cleaning.
Yeah, that and in that ambience, and everybody knows Julie's home, and she'll be walking upstairs in the next 5 minutes, checking on me and saying hello. Anyways, so Donnie, keep the grind going. Congratulations on your new position in Dublin. It will, and when there's a will, there's a way. You'll find some time that you can go ahead and keep working towards your goal and your dream. Because if it's truly what you want to do and truly love, you'll find a way to do it. People always do.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure he wants to be a professional pilot. I think he just wants to get his private pilot license.
Well, he says that he's starting out. I don't know if he'll leap to begin my private pilot.
Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't clear to me.
It's not very clear. I mean, if he just wants to be PPL, which is in itself one awesome achievement to be able to step foot into an airplane and fly it. That, Donnie, to be honest with you, if that's what your destination is, That's easily obtained. I probably shouldn't say easily. It takes a lot of work. But in regards to reference becoming a PPL versus being, an ATPL, how would you say that in over there in Europe?
Yeah, it's probably
Nick.
It'd be probably the same thing, right? You're muted. You're
muted, Nick.
An ATPL,
so
transport pilot's license.
That's exactly. So I did say it right. Okay. So if it depends on the level you want to get to, but if it's what you're looking for is a PPL, certainly if you're flying a couple weekends, a couple times on the weekends, that shouldn't take you too long to achieve. Just as I said, keep your mind to it, keep grinding at it, and it can be done. Absolutely can be done.
Yes, it can.
And I share that with you, Donnie, by the way. I don't come from a wealthy background either. And I planned since I was young kiddo to fly for a living, and did fund my own training. So you and I have that very much in common. And it takes work, it takes time and dedication. And there she is, Jeff.
I know. I just added her.
I should pay attention.
She was backstage for a bit, and I just added her while you were talking. Well, from her lovely cottage by the lake in South Carolina, obviously I don't have the...
You can just say from my messy office studio here.
Messy office studio in South Carolina. The awesome Dr. Steph.
Hey, marathon runner.
Welcome. So good to see you.
Hey, I know. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in forever. Sorry about the last time we tried to do this. The internet was... where I had no internet connection. That was just really terrible.
Dr. Steph, you can control a lot of things in life, especially being a doctor, but there's some things you just can't control.
This is true.
And the internet's probably one of them.
Yeah, and it's hard to relinquish that control sometimes, isn't it? I think the pilots understand as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not so much Jeff.
Nah.
Jeff's like, I don't care.
I'm out of control all the time.
Just let it go. I don't care. Yeah. So hi, how's everyone? Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
So has anything been going on in your life last weekend, maybe?
Last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last time we talked was a Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yes. Or tried to anyway. And I actually ended up going to bed quite early that evening. So even if I had been able to join the show, I would have had to leave a little early because I was still in Spain. I had a 4 a.m. wake up to take a 7 a.m. flight, starting in San Sebastian, going with a stopover in Madrid. And then I had a Madrid to JFK flight. And then I had to go to LaGuardia to go to Chicago because I wanted to go to Midway and not to O'Hare. So I did all of that on Friday because there was a little event there, the Chicago Marathon over the weekend. Friday night had a marathon charity team dinner because I still run with the same charity team I've been running with there for the past 7 years. They had a really good turnout. 40 people, I think, showed up to the dinner that night. And Dispatcher Mike was there because he also ran the marathon and ran for the same charity team. So we'll get to that in a moment as well. Met up with some other friends after that. And I think after probably 30 hours of being awake, I finally crashed into my hotel bed. I don't even know what time of night that was, probably midnight local time in Chicago. So like 8 a.m. Spain local time the next day. I was up for a while. The next morning, Saturday morning, there was a 5K kind of shakeout run to do. When I packed for this trip, which was like 2 weeks ago, the weather in Chicago looked pretty good. I probably should have known better that it's Chicago and it's October and anything can change with the weather in the Midwest, because waking up Saturday morning, it was in the low 30s with a wind chill in the 20s, and I did not have a hat or gloves. I grabbed some socks from one of the airline amenity kits that I'd received and used that as my gloves.
I love it.
Can you still see me okay? My video froze for some reason.
Oh, you're coming in fine.
Okay. So
does that allow you to run on your hands when you're wearing
socks? You can,
you can
go
all four.
Talking about smart repurposing. I mean, turn them into mitts. You know, like,
exactly. They actually worked quite well. They were kind of fuzzy on the inside. They were nice.
And the plastic bags you wrapped around your head looked great too.
Yes, yes. No, I did have something to kind of make a makeshift hat out of, but then I went immediately to the store after that and purchased some warmer clothes. But anyway, kind of just relaxed the rest of the day that day and had the marathon itself on Sunday, which was awesome. The weather was pretty much perfect, except for it was a little windy, especially the second half of the race. As the day went on, it picked up a little bit, but ended up with a 12-minute personal best time and a Boston qualifier
you did
time.
so well. That's
that's
brilliant.
awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, really.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Steph, did
Yeah.
I not see that the first time ever in marathon history, the person that won the marathon under 2 hours, was that correct?
No, so that was the day before. This runner, his name is Eliud Kipchoge from Kenya. He has tried once before now. He owns the official world record for the marathon for the men, set in Berlin of 2:01:34, I think. But this was more of a kind of a, call it an academic attempt to prove that someone can run a sub 2-hour marathon, because it was not on a course that was eligible to have an official record on, just because of the way the course was laid out. The fact that they used multiple pace groups who came in at multiple times. They took, he took his fluids and nutrition from someone on a bike as opposed to just off of a table. So a whole bunch of reasons why it can't be an official world record, but he ran 1:59:40. So pretty incredible. And the women's world record for the marathon was broken in Chicago this weekend. Bridget Kosgei ran a 2:14 something. 2:14. Wow, yeah, crazy fast. I don't even know how you do that. So, but huge shout out.
What you did. What you did.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there, slowly but surely. Take off excuse me, a few minutes here and there. But the real shout out goes to
12 minutes. Mike. Isn't that a 12-minute improvement on your?
Yeah, it was a 12-minute.
Yeah, that's more than a few minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the past, since end of 2017, I think I've taken almost half an hour or more off of my marathon time, more than half an hour off of it. So it's pretty good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But like I said, huge shout out to Dispatcher Mike, because this was his first marathon. He trained very hard for it. His whole goal was to be counted as an official finisher under the cutoff time, and he made it with 4 minutes to spare. Whoa. So congratulations, Mike. That deserves a huge round of applause.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I've told him directly on several different texts how amazed I am that he set his mind to this. He went out and he saw the goal, and he just absolutely destroyed it. Absolutely went out and achieved the goal and then some. So very proud of Dispatcher Mike.
And it's funny, along the way we kind of were having our own, as we're running along the city of Chicago, having our own little AvGeek moments, because you're watching the approach paths for both O'Hare and Midway at different points along the course, and you start. Everyone else uses probably buildings and landmarks to know where they are in the city. I think Mike and I both were like, okay, this is O'Hare. Okay, north of O'Hare. Okay, back south of O'Hare. Midway, south of Midway, back north of Midway, home stretch. Here we go. So
brilliant.
And they were towing banners that said, "Go Steph,
go Mike." Yeah, they definitely did. Thanks to Southwest Airlines for that. No, just kidding. Thanks to
That's
Acme.
what they were actually hallucinating.
At that point, 23 miles in, definitely possible.
Well, that's awesome stuff.
So I apologize for being late today. The reason I was late, I made 3 weeks ago, probably, I made this appointment to see my physical therapist today, because post-race, nice to work out some of the kinks and angry muscles. And I mistakenly told you guys, not that pilots ever have trouble with time zones. You asked me on Monday what I could do for the show today. And it's like, oh, my appointment's at 2:00, 3:00. I'll be a little bit late, but that'll be fine since you've already decided that. Well,
so we set up 3:00.
Did not take into account that I was in the central time zone and not the Eastern time zone. And the way I had entered it into my calendar, it just shifted that time right on over. And I actually, I had it in my mind that the appointment was 2:00. So I was on my way there today at like 1:30 and went, oh, no, that's not right. Oh no, I really messed this up. So sorry. Yeah,
that's okay.
Okay. Oh, here, I made it for a little bit. So.
At least it wasn't an airplane flight that you had to get on.
Yeah, at least I didn't screw that up. You know, usually I'm pretty good sometimes about remembering to actually click the box that says keep in local time zone, because you can do that both on Apple Calendar and Google Calendar. And this one I didn't do it when I entered it. So
oh well, we're glad that you can make it for part of the show.
Yeah, I've been listening in for about the past hour. It's been great. Been enjoying the show. So
excellent. Anything else, or do you? Because
gosh, I don't know. Oh, hello.
kind of see Julie in the background. Dana just. Oh, now she's leaving. She does not want to be seen.
She does not want to be seen at all.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Distraction.
Nope, nothing else. Nothing else. I think I've caught everyone up there in as short a time as possible. I'm trying to think. I'm probably missing something out, leaving something out. I don't know. There's a beer in my fridge that when Pilot Pip was here a couple weeks back left, and I feel like I should probably go get that and start consuming it because I'm thirsty.
But before you do,
yes,
or go ahead.
We'll sure? No. I'll get it. I'll get it after the show. It's okay.
Well, we're just going to wrap up Donnie's feedback because we were still kind of discussing.
I thought you were going to do that. That's why I was surprised that you pulled me into the show. I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Oh well, sorry.
Go ahead.
So again, his question was, do we know anybody who's become a self-made pilot, juggling personal life, professional career, and the commitment to flight training? Steph is raising her hand, and Dana, of course, told us about his self-made pilot journey, in culminating in being an airline pilot. Again, from what I got from Donnie is that he was just talking about being a private pilot, which is great. And yeah, I think there are probably thousands or tens of thousands out there.
I think most people do it that way, to be honest. Yeah. At least, does he say he's in Belfast, so he's in Ireland, Northern Ireland.
Yeah,
moving to Ireland.
Yeah.
So a little different over there than here in the US, which Dana and I can certainly speak to, but it's certainly possible, and it's like any other goal. You make your goal to do it, you figure out the logistics of doing it, and then you stick to what it is that has to be done to get there, whether it's financial things that you have to take care of, whether it's time and scheduling, whether it's a combination of all of the above. But it can be done.
Stick-to-itiveness is important.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, excellent. So when we started the feedback stuff, we skipped number 1 and 2 because we thought that you should be here for this feedback. And
the doctor in charge of sick.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You are
I do spine doctor.
You're now the anti-peristalsis doctor.
Yeah, I need to talk to you off air, Dr. Steph, by the way.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah.
Okay. Trent sent in this. He said, considering a career change from what I do now, to try to become a pilot. I've gone up for a few trial flights with my local FBO. The only problem is that whenever we hit turbulence, I start feeling sick. I don't normally get sick when flying on the airlines, except if it gets really bumpy. Is motion sickness just something pilots get used to?
Sorry, I was speaking of feeling sick, coughing there quite a bit.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm good. I'm not sick. Yeah, so I think everyone can probably chime in on this. So if you've not noticed it, when flying for the airlines, my question is this: if you've gone up for a few trial flights, typically if it's an introductory flight, the flight instructor that you're with will turn the controls over to you so you can get a feel for handling the aircraft, get kind of an introductory lesson. For most people, it's much easier to keep from feeling airsick, motion sick, if you're the one in control of the aircraft, even if there is turbulence. If you're not the one who's actually flying, I think it's much more likely that you're going to experience those sensations. So you didn't mention that, Trent, but that's one thought that comes immediately to mind. Mm-hmm. The second thing is I have known, and I think we've actually had feedback from other folks who have suffered from motion sickness their first few times out trying to fly and have stuck with it, that stick-to-itiveness again, to see what happens along the way and have had improvement in it over time. If it really persists, or especially if you're noticing it in other, hello?
Sorry.
I'm feeling motion sick here. The whole world is turning upside down.
Well, I just saw Nick tilting his head, so I decided I would tilt my head too.
It may not be. There's a lot of reasons why that can happen, especially inner ear issues, or if you have any type of if you were experiencing any type of upper respiratory illness. So it might not be a bad idea to get those things checked out if it persists or if it happens in other settings as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
I think
getting the leans.
I do agree, Steph, that being at the controls usually, for some people, solves the whole sickness, feeling of sickness thing, because you are concentrating so much on keeping the airplane upright.
Yeah, you don't have time to feel sick.
Right.
Also, what inputs are being made, so you have that direct feedback as well. It's not someone else is doing something and you're not able to anticipate those motions or movements.
All right, so I'm gonna chime in here if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So Trent, here's the deal. I actually can't spend a whole lot of time, especially in vehicles, looking down. Like a lot of people can read magazines or their phone or anything else in the vehicle because it bothers me. I actually get motion sickness, and I think I've mentioned it before. I do enjoy going on cruises. I do get motion sickness on that, and I do when I'm not in control. Exactly what they're saying. I do actually have a problem, and early on in my career, when I was back working in the training department, I would go over the simulator, and that would actually really cause some bad problems for me. Even my recent recurrent training when I was taxiing the airplane, because the feeling is just so not natural in the simulator when you're taxiing the aircraft, that really bothers me as well. However, fortunately, what they are talking about is exactly what I have no problem with. Like when I'm driving in a vehicle and I'm driving, I have absolutely no problems with motion sickness. When I'm in a boat and I'm driving, when I'm captaining it, I usually don't have a problem. So it's actually, I think, a mind over matter issue, because when I'm flying an airplane, I have absolutely no problem with motion sickness at all. Don't need to take anything. It's one of the questions on the FAA medical. As a matter of fact, do you have any issues that you have to take the medical, a pill or something for motion sickness? I really don't, but I do know what my limitations are, and I've learned over the years that when I'm in IMC and whatever other type of conditions that I don't have the ability to really have a good visual, like flying at night, I really have learned to trust my instrument skills and trust the instruments. So I don't have a problem with motion sickness once I'm flying. But initially, just like you, way back when I first started flying, I did have an issue. So it's a matter of whether you can overcome it or not. And for me, it was an issue initially. I found that when I was flying, if I was hot, the temperature was hot, then I would start feeling it. But nice cool mornings, and that feeling goes away. So that has a lot to do with it as well. So that's just my personal experience.
Alex has a good point in the Facebook chat room too. He says getting your eyes outside can help. That's the huge thing. So make sure you're not just focused inside the aircraft. Look outside, see what's going on around you.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to do when you first start flying. You want to just stare at the instruments, and it's a good tip there.
Well, it's just like being on a boat, right? When you're on a boat, what do they tell you to look at when you start seeing, you feel motion sickness, right? You don't look inside the boat. You look out at the horizon, hopefully something that's fixed on land, like a building or something. And then usually that motion sickness goes away. So that's, exactly correct. I mean, look outside, focus on something, because with the motion, when you first learn to fly, motion of the aircraft is a little different from what you're seeing on the instrument panel, and that's exactly the opposite feeling I feel when I'm taxiing the aircraft in the simulator. It's that exact feeling. So, when I'm taxiing the simulator, if I look inside, it goes away. When I'm looking outside, because the motion of the simulator is so different than what's going on outside visually for me, that's when I'm starting to feel that. So.
It's the conflict between what your inner ear senses and what your eyes are seeing that causes it, isn't it, Steph? So
it's correct. Yep.
That mismatch puts your body under a certain amount of stress, and it's very common for your body when it's under that kind of stress just to go, I might need to run away here, so I'm just going to vomit up my last meal so I can put on a good turn of speed. So yeah, try and keep your eyes matched with what the airplane's doing. So looking out, which is fine. I'm one of those lucky blokes that has never really suffered from motion sickness, so a little hard for me to relate to it. But I've had plenty of students who have suffered from it, and the best thing we did to fix them was to desensitize them, try not to turn being airsick into a reaction that occurs every time you fly, because otherwise your body will start to go, I'm flying, so I'm going to be
So I
airsick
should throw up. Yep.
regardless of what's happening. So if you start feeling airsick, try and get the instructor to back off and get some fresh air, lower the temperature, lower your body temperature a little bit, and recover from it, rather than allowing yourself to be sick. Even though after you've been sick, you may feel better afterwards, it's better not to if you can possibly do that. Otherwise, it just becomes habitual. And the more often you fly, the more you will desensitize yourself to it. So try and keep your frequency of flying up as much as you can afford, because the longer the gaps are, the more likely you are to suffer from it.
I think I've mentioned it a few times. True, it's true. A few times on previous episodes that one of my duties as the assistant flight commander in the Air Training Command was having to fly with students that were kind of getting close to being washed out. In fact, they were on their last thread of hope. Yes, exactly. And I found that in pretty much every case, it was a combination of both the motion of the airplane and how maybe their instructor pilots were flying it a little bit jerky, and also the fact that there's a lot of pressure on you to perform. And so I think that was also another factor, not only the motion of the airplane, but also the fact that they were under that increased or the incredible amount of stress. And I tried to make them feel, relaxed, and I didn't put a lot of pressure on them, and I just tried to be as laid back as I could. And when I was flying, showing them various things, I tried to be as smooth as I could, and all of them made it through to the next stage of training. So that's one of the things I'm most proud about.
Great. That's brilliant, job. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So Trent, I think I would, my advice would be stick with it for now. Try flying different times of day. Maybe even switch up the instructor if you get a chance. See if that makes a difference for you. Look outside, and maybe make sure you have some air flowing within the cockpit there in the cabin.
Yes. Also closely related to that one we just did is the second one in our feedback folder from Brett Fry. We all met Brett at Oshkosh. When I heard the feedback question about instant air sickness, it reminded me of the only time I've been airsick in a small plane. I was asked to ride along as one of our friends wanted to get some aerial photos of some property. So 3 of us climbed into a 172 and set off from Toledo to the top of the Mitten, aka northern lower Michigan. We wandered our way along the east coast of Michigan on the way to Presque Isle Airport. I think I would have pronounced that right, but thank you for the pronunciation.
Presque Isle.
Yes, Presque Isle Airport, PZQ, and their 4,100-foot runway. Along the way, we stopped in at Oscoda, Wurtsmith Airport. I could have used a pronunciation guide for these. I think Wurtsmith Airport for a biology break. This airport, OSC, was decommissioned from the U.S. Air Force in the early 90s and only has one runway. It is 11,800 feet by 200 feet. It felt like the guy flying, the pilot could have landed crosswise on the runway. So when we get to the destination airport, we were invited to join some relatives for dinner. Here comes the lesson learned. No matter how good the dinner is, the traveler needs to remember the size of the vehicle they're traveling in and what may be waiting them when they head home. We took our leave and departed for some more photography, needing to return to Toledo. Oddly enough, our pilot had mentioned that he had some garbage bags in his flight bag, learning from a prior situation. And I forgot to mention that the third traveler, the one that wanted the pictures, was bigger than the pilot and me, so the plane twisted a little each time he slid across the back seat looking for what he wanted pictures of. So you can probably see where this is all going. Full belly of food, plane moving around from passenger movement, looking through the camera zoom lens, and then a light chop developed. Oh, the misery and the sturdy garbage bags. It was a great lesson, and yes, we did get some good photos too. And it's a good thing there are vents in the 172 to let in some fresh air. That's all for now. Just wanted to share a little life lesson with you and the listeners. And I'm sure there are hundreds and hundreds of stories that so many pilots and travelers could share. Also, thanks again for opening the RV fridge to visitors at OSH 19. Your hospitality was greatly appreciated. Brett Fry. And our thanks to all those who kept restocking our RV refrigerator with potent potables.
Absolutely. Yes, I remember taking a member of parliament for the Labour Party off for a trip in the back of a Tornado. And we did some pretty easy stuff, a bit of formation flying, went supersonic, which is pretty smooth, did a bit of low flying, and then he stopped talking to me. So I can't see what's going on in the back of my mirror. So I thought, well, I better cave back to base. So I wheedled my way home, and he had been sick so much that he nearly Cat 5'd the aircraft. He nearly completely destroyed the rear cockpit. And we had to get medics to him in the cockpit.
Wow.
They had to lift him out. He physically couldn't climb out of the cockpit. He was in just such an awful state.
Wow.
By the way,
did he end up really dehydrated as well from
Well, we only airborne for about 35 minutes, so I don't know how
okay.
quickly you can get dehydrated, but he
stuff.
had puked up just about everything. What was quite amusing was he was on the lash the night before, so we had a party and a dinner, formal dinner in the mess, and he had really laid one on the night before, so that probably didn't help.
Probably what happened.
So,
yes.
and being from the Labour Party, not a party I vote for, I didn't have a lot of sympathy, but there you go.
So were you flying as smoothly as you could have been?
Oh, of course, I'm that kind of a pilot, Jeff. I wouldn't purposely make a Labour MP violently sick. What do you think I am?
The answer I was expecting.
No, never. I don't know. Fortunately, I'll say I have never been airsick. I have been pretty seasick one time, just the once. I will say just briefly, small boat, below deck, after dinner, 6 to 8 foot waves. Not a great combination.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah.
My time being sick, and I think I've shared this a few times on the show in this last 10 years, had nothing to do with being in an airplane, actually. It had something to do with what we had consumed the night before.
Alcohol.
A lot of PBR
and
what do we call it? Guam chicken. For those of you out there in the Air Force who have spent any time at Guam, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe that's not a thing anymore, but it was when I was flying in the 80s. And it's just like really greasy fried chicken.
Delicious.
Which are really good. And if you eat a lot of and with a lot of hot sauce on them.
I'm already feeling nauseous.
Hot sauce, fried greasy chicken, PBR.
PBR.
Are you sure you're not in Nashville eating hot chicken?
Yeah. This was, but it's very similar to that, but worse. And the next day we were climbing out at 141 and I got to the point where I went, oh, this is not, I need to leave and go to the bathroom. And I slid my chair back or my seat back. I'm doing that now, getting away from the microphone, but about half the rail on the 141, it starts from the sidewall and then kind of goes in toward the center console. And then it slides up, and it's actually a lot of travel. I don't know how many feet, but it's a long travel seat. And
by the time you got to the end of the travel, you shouted.
Nope, half of it. Half of the
Not even that far.
Yeah, halfway back is when it all just culminated in a huge mess. So, wow.
Spectacular.
Why is it I'm not hearing you guys anymore? Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
That's
You're
weird.
good.
What'd I do?
Unplug.
Did you unplug your?
You unplug.
When you were demonstrating,
when I was
as you were demonstrating the travel of the
I
sea.
can still hear a little bit, but not the normal volume. Now I'm back to normal volume.
Well, you have to put it all the way in, Jeff.
That was yeah.
You got to keep
That's
it
what
all the way
she
in
said.
too.
And no more.
The
No,
plug.
don't pull out early.
The plug.
again.
We're not talking about
Oh,
anything
you
else.
take
This
part.
is a family show.
Sorry.
You keep the plug all the way in.
Okay. So anyway, thank you for sharing your puking incident, Brett. Although he did not use the term, I did. Great. Let's see. I guess we can move on to. We're getting close to the 3-hour mark. I think we have about 15 minutes or so to go. Let's see. What should? Oh, we have to do this one. There are a lot of them in here that we need to cover, but this is one of my favorites. From 15 from Texas Charlie.
Oh yes, yes.
I don't know if you guys saw.
Oh, I read that whole thing. That is.
Well, there's
she's actually kind of cute too.
This is.
She's actually kind of cute.
There's a video. There's like one of the news agencies or whatever over in Britain did a thing on this and actually interviewed her. I don't know if it's part of this article or not.
Would I be discussing if I said I had an affection for the L1011 in a very similar way?
Yes.
Good,
Here you
because
go,
I
Dana.
really didn't actually. Oh, there it is.
Oh no, keep it away.
Oh my God! Sorry, I got your camera off. I'm muting. See ya.
Stop. Abort.
So Texas Charlie writes in, "Howdy, guys and gals." You know he's from Texas. Like most av geeks, I've had encounters with planes that left lifelong impressions upon me. As a child, I had a schoolboy crush on a DC-3, and even today, I fondly remember my first time with a Connie. But I think Michelle Kobke of Berlin has found a level of appreciation that few of us have considered. Not that I'm judging. After all, how many of us have run our hand along the smooth metal of a plane and felt as if it was more than just aluminum wires and hydraulics? Even so, a 737? At least it's not an A320. That would be crazy. Adios, Texas Charlie. And okay, here's the article that he sent a link to. Get ready for it. Woman in a 5-year relationship with a Boeing 737-800. And it's, quote, physical. Michelle Kobke, 30, from Berlin, says the Boeing is, quote, very attractive, sexy, beautifully built, and elegant. And she has a pet name for it. Let's see.
Darling.
5-year
Yeah, she calls it
relationship.
darling.
Yeah, she calls it darling. And specifically a 737.
Oh, Shats. That's
Oh,
what
okay.
the
Yeah,
pet
yeah.
name was.
Yeah. Well, that's darling.
So that's
yes.
what this airplane did to itself.
It was airsick.
That's what this story is making.
Seasick.
No, that Shats isn't air sickness.
Ah.
That's something else, I'm sure.
Michelle sometimes gets to fly in him, but unlike regular relationships, Michelle is unable to spend quality time with her boyfriend. Adding a relationship with a plane is not easy and at times difficult. I can only get close to him when I fly with him or when I can get to him in the hangar, which has only happened once in my life. However, she has found different ways to indulge her affection. She said, I have a big model of him made of fiberglass, as well as real components from him, so I can act out my love to some degree.
On the pedo tube.
So there's a picture of Michelle
trying not to go there
in bed with her kissing the front of the fuselage. Anyway, I'm not sure I can go any further with this before we
Family show. Yes.
it becomes explicit.
Why would her nickname be that of a American politician?
Huh?
Schatz. Brian Schatz is actually the senior United States senator from Hawaii.
How would you know that versus us Americans?
I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of the guy.
Really?
No,
okay.
never.
No, never.
Well, it's amazing what you can get from Google.
It's amazing what
you
you can get from being retired and having all this time on your hands.
no, you took the press of a button.
Yeah, there's some pictures of her embracing her love. And yeah.
Love comes in all forms. What can we say?
I mean, you know,
we do love airplanes here.
We do love airplanes. Maybe not to the extent that Michelle does.
Different degrees. Yes.
Well, there was a program about a bloke that loved a car. I think it was a Volkswagen or something. So perhaps it's German. I don't know.
It might be the German thing.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask Marcus.
Yes, for our German listeners, you can direct that feedback to Jeff and Nick.
I really can't just say what my wife just said. I really just can't. She's seen the photographs, and I just cannot repeat what she said.
Okay.
Good.
But I'm laughing my butt off.
Thank you for not sharing that.
Yes, it's a family show, folks.
Okay. Trying to find one that might be short enough to cover in the limited amount of time available on the rest of the show here. William says, yeah, this should be quick. I am a relatively new listener to the show, my first episode being 380. Before my question, I would like to congratulate you all on doing such a great job on the show and supplying us listeners with wonderful content every week. My question is quite a simple one. Do you think it would be better to join an airline with relatively no experience, under 150 hours, or to build hours elsewhere, skydiver pilot, for instance, and go in with 2,000 hours experience to apply to be an FO? Again, thanks for doing such a great job on the show. Keep the blue side up. And this is William from Gloucestershire.
Gloucestershire,
England.
Very good.
Did I get it right?
Yes, Gloucestershire.
Okay. Gloucestershire.
So the first option that you gave us there, relatively no experience, under 150 hours. I don't think any airline's going to hire you with that.
Well, unless he's talking about like ab initio stuff where you, but that is not, I don't have.
What's the multi-crew course produced?
I think it's 250. I think it's
40 or 250.
I thought it was 250.
Yeah, something around that.
A little more than that, but.
Well, why don't we just rephrase it and say a low time pilot instead of just putting a number on it? Let's say it's a low time ab initio pilot versus somebody that.
Okay, regardless of what, we get the idea. Should I build up time and then apply, or should I apply and get my foot in the door and get hired right away? And I think all of us would say the earlier you can if your goal is to be an airline pilot and fly with a certain airline, the earliest you can get in is the best answer, in my opinion. Whatever
for a career point of view,
from a seniority.
Yeah, it would be hard to build up flying experience once you're in an airline, but actually that doesn't stop you doing it, because you can actually still, if you're interested in improving your flying skills, flying days off, go out and rent an airplane and do the things that you think you need to do to become a good pilot. It doesn't stop you doing it.
Yeah, I mean, perfectly said. I mean, if you can get in the door at that low time threshold and build, get through the training and build your seniority, you're still building experience, because you're flying with the, experienced captains like Jeff and Nick that know what they're doing, unlike me. No, I'm only kidding, really. But, seriously, you're flying with experienced captains that are going to probably help nurse you into the role of being a pilot. And honestly, in the commercial level, it's a lot of the decisions as an FO, more or less, you're just trying to back up the captain and what he's trying to decide, and kind of what I usually do here on the show, play devil's advocate. Say, well, what if we do this, right? So that's, as a good FO will bring up some good points. So, and then I agree with Nick. I mean, Nick is stating something very important, is that once you get in, build your seniority, build your experience, but then get the general aviation side of it, where you can build up some really good experience flying the airplane yourself, learning how to manage the cockpit in different situations with a light aircraft, which is invaluable experience in my opinion. So it's really a combination of both of what you're asking here. I think it would be the best solution.
So I think we're talking about two different setups here, basically. So here in the U.S., the seniority system for airlines for companies is a big deal, but you can't apply unless you meet more stringent hour requirements. So if you were here in the US, which you're not, you would not be coming into either a regional carrier or mainline carrier with less than, in most cases, 1,500 hours, some cases 1,250, some cases a little less than that, depending on military experience or certain college degrees that you may have earned. Different in Europe and in other parts of the world where there are these ab initio programs and multi-crew licensing pathways that can get you into the right seat of an aircraft with a company much sooner. But also a lot of those companies don't have the same seniority setups structure scheme. So it just depends. It varies. I think it's a hard question to answer. It depends on what your end goal is, and I think it depends a lot on where you are in the world and how the training environment is set up. Experience always helps.
Yes. Well
said, Dr. Steph.
Yes,
and very true. Actually, very accurate.
I hope this helped you, William, from Gloucestershire, England.
Go be a skydiver pilot.
Worcestershire sauce.
Gloucestershire.
Worcestershire.
Go be a skydiver pilot.
In Boston, we know how to
It's a
say
lot of
that.
fun.
Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
A shire.
All right.
William, next time you write in, just say you come from Kent.
Okay.
London. We know where that is.
This was sent in from Lucas, James, and Colonel Jeff. And it is a way to end the show on a high note. Kai Klitenik or Key Klitenik, I'm not sure how you pronounce Ki, 2 years old, of Ocala, Florida, smiled, clapped, and said thank you in sign language after retiring American Airlines Captain Joe Weiss pinned his wings onto the toddler's shirt at Miami International Airport on October 2nd. An American Airlines pilot capped off his final flight last week by giving his wings to a Central Florida toddler with Down syndrome. Captain Joe Weiss, retiring after about 35 years, made the gesture on the tarmac at Miami International Airport on October 2nd, after Flight 69 from Madrid landed. Kai Klitenik, 2. Wait, I really wish that I had edited this before I started reading it.
Is this a certain number or news item? Just curious.
This is
This doesn't exist, don't worry.
We don't have this.
Oh, well, you know what happened? We put this in the current show folder, but it wasn't numbered. And that may have escaped Liz's attention. I may have moved it over and not told her.
That's okay. We'll just listen.
Yeah. So, Sarah Tamar Klitenik, the young toddler's mom, said, "It's so amazing what he did. The whole thing was so cool," told the Orlando Sentinel on Friday. They attended a family reunion in Palma de Mallorca.
Palma. Just say Palma.
Palma, and happened to be sitting next to Weiss's wife, Wendy, during the flight back from Spain. As the women chatted, Wendy Weiss texted her husband in the cockpit, and he came out to the cabin to meet Kai. "My last flight was very special for many reasons. I will remember this always. Our pilots and flight attendants have worn wings for more than 8 decades, American Airlines says on its website. First given as a symbol of aviation training and qualification by the U.S. military in 1913, our wings are an iconic symbol of aviation ability and adventure." So anyway, it's really nice. This young 2-year-old Down syndrome child, there's a photo of her in the cockpit, and you can see the uniform with the 4 stripes, the arms of Joe Weiss on his retirement flight, pinning his wings on Kai. So there you go.
I do love that story. That's great.
Yes. So I think that will end it for today's show. If you want to learn more about the community, which is really the best thing about this whole thing, the APG experience, or you want to learn more about the crew, merchandise, the coffee fund, if you're interested in joining that great group of people. Let's see, the Plain Tales has its own page as well, standalone page. More information, more in-depth information, and pictures and stuff to go with the awesome Plain Tales that Nick does for us every week. There's, as I said, right in the middle of the menu of the Airline Pilot Guy website is the Plain Tales page, and so much more. Please head over to airlinepilotguy.com. And we are on the social medias.
We are indeed. Head over to Twitter using the handle at APG Crew. You can find all of our individual Twitter information pinned to the top of the page and interesting things going on there about news in the aviation world and meetups and such, and even more information over at facebook.com/airline pilot guy. So please join us on the social meds and be social.
Yes, please do. And we also are on Slack. We have a Slack team created by Hillel, which I think.
What the heck is on this hand towel?
Hillel, cut it out, man. Come over here. Tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you, Hillel. Now you can go back to the bathroom. All right, thanks.
Fire in the hole.
Don't light a match.
Yeah.
He's our very own
God.
Captain Al, isn't he?
God bless you, Jeff, for keeping him with you each week in the hotel conference.
It's my pleasure, actually. And we'd also like to thank again our awesome producer, Liz, in Toronto.
Ooh, yay.
Well done, Liz. Another great one. Thank you.
I've been thinking about Liz this whole show.
And he's
you're suggesting Liz is a dipsomaniac? Or
no,
what?
she provided this this advertisement for the Crown Royal Bourbon Mash. That's what she brought me to to Oshkosh.
That a lot of people are listening. They're not watching the video. Okay, so I'm just going to leave in the part where you're just thinking about Liz a lot. And with that,
I wouldn't do that.
We'll end today's show. Thanks everybody for watching the videos on both Facebook and YouTube, and especially those of you participating with the live show in the chat rooms. Thank you for hanging with us, and thanks for downloading the show, reviewing it, and all that jazz. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Talons, Douglas.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.
Ba-doom, bam.
And there we were, gone.
I really looked
Top recorders
at my video and noticed where the lettering is on Fanny here.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that you guys can see.
Oh,
but I can only see part
all
of
I can
it.
see is us.
Yeah, that's all I can see too.
Oh, wait, hang on. Let me make it a little, I'll put you on the full screen. Come on. There we go. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Just that. That's fine.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
I should. Oh, wrong direction.
Jeff, for the Plain Tale, having listened to it, I don't know, about 4 times, I suddenly realized that the final part, I muddled up the number of surviving aircraft with the number of shot down aircraft. So I just need to redo one line towards the end of that tale. So,
and I can put it in the audio only version.
Please, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Not a problem at all. So let's see. I guess I could tell you guys were talking about the fact that I was doing a news item that wasn't in no one's.
We were just confused as to where you went.
I actually read that email, so I knew exactly what you're talking about. So fantastic on that captain's part. I think it's amazing.
Let's see. Yeah, originally she had it in the news folder, and I thought it was more of a feedback to me than a news item. Anyway, that's the way I felt about it. So I just dragged it to the APG current show folder, but I must have done it after I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
where I
I
see
knew
it.
you. I knew you were talking about. So
If you guys were using Evernote, you would see everything I see.
Mm.
But no,
I am. I paid for it.
I'm happy
have-
to use Evernote. You suggested we do it another way.
Yep.
I just thought it would be easier for you guys because every
It
time
is.
you opened up Evernote, well, especially for Steph, because it would download all kinds of stuff that.
Oh, that's
500
because
million
she's a
things.
bad girl and she never updates it.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah. Anyway,
Anywho,
no. Yeah, because I think Liz, when we talked about that several days ago, and anyway, whatever. So, anything we want to say to our live broadcast people?
We love
Are you still there? I haven't seen it. I think my chat is not updating.
Oh.
Nope. I just got to update. Everyone's still there. Sorry.
Yep.
I want to ask. I haven't seen Man Micah here.
I don't think he was
Yeah,
here.
he was not here today.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing him next week.
Oh, nice. Going to be in Portland.
I get the 30-hour layover. Actually, I've got it twice now. I get it in November as well.
Very good.
So looking forward to that.
Very good.
Even if me and Micah happens not to be available, I still love that overnight.
Portland's a wonderful town.
Yeah,
it is. It really is.
Liz, you did not mess
all
up.
right.
We blame Jeff.
It's all Jeff's fault.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Do they,
It's got to be my fault.
Do they make port in Portland?
Port?
Of course.
Yes.
Best port in the world.
It is the
Really?
best port in the world. Yeah.
No, they don't make port in Portland.
Hi, David.
I'm sure.
Oh, I don't think I'll go there then.
How is the pen? Oh, I don't have it here. I absolutely love it. To answer your question, David, it's you guys don't know this, but well, maybe I did mention it on the show that I did. But when I was on my Houston overnight, he took me out to a very nice Italian restaurant. His two sons. We had a fantastic dinner, and then he made me a homemade pen made out of, I think it's cherry wood. Is that correct? And it's absolutely gorgeous pen. It was made from his heart. So loved it. I still love it. I use it at work now. So thank you.
Very nice.
Well, I've got an all-nighter tomorrow night. We've got our jamboree on the air with the Scouts, so we'll be shouting out on the radio all night long.
Oh, that's right. You do that, and then you go to a bar somewhere and drink beer
with the Scouts.
These are adult Scouts, right? No.
Yeah.
Almost.
I think I might be taking my hip flask, but I'm not going to be letting any Scouts near it. But I'll need something to keep my sense of humor.
Because you have none? I'm only kidding.
Very true, actually. You hit the nail on the head there. I've just done a lot of classes on how not to upset people.
Really?
It didn't work very well, did
Jeff
it?
doesn't believe you.
That's a good one.
I thought you'd enjoy that.
Hey, Jeff, is your camera all screwed up, or you just turning red?
So I'm just turning red. Anyway, so thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Hope the experience is good over there on the Facebook.
Hang on a minute. Colin has said something very important. The fortified wines in Australia are legendary. He is quite right. And Galway Pipe is one of the most fabulous ports I've ever drunk, and that comes from Australia.
Well, I look forward to trying some sometime.
Well, I have to get it smuggled in because you can't find it in this country. So I've got a friend with Quaintas who occasionally flies in and brings me a bottle or two.
So, did I hear you say APG meetup in Australia?
Yeah,
I think that's what I heard, Jeff.
That's what I heard too.
In one of the nice wine growing areas, but
I still have
actually, the Hunter Valley would be good because it's near Willie, so we can go and visit.
Hunter is near Willie. Is Willie? Hunter found his Willie.
Okay, I think it might be time for me to end the broadcast.
David Ogden wants us to go to Houston for homemade pens, by the way. So
yes, his pen
Houston.
Yeah,
you don't like Houston? That's on your list of places you don't like to go to?
Houston.
Houston's actually a lovely
Never
city.
been there.
Houston's great.
Anthony, I agree with you. It is a very lovely city. Downtown is very nice.
Houston.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Whitney.
think so.
I Whitney Houston. Now I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll educate Nick. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Please
He needs to be
don't.
educated.
Please don't. I'm prefer to be
Too many beers.
ignorant.
Got it.
I need to start drinking.
Yeah, I
Yes,
feel way
Colin,
behind.
Go away.
Yeah,
with
you
the
need.
cracker. It's
You
lovely.
both need to catch up.
Okay.
Yes, Gail. I love the Hunter Valley. Yeah, I spent
It's been a
many a
rough day.
happy time up there in the wineries.
Very rough day. I need to have a drink.
Several, I would suggest.
No, I'm trying to get there, but I've only had one so far. That gets continually poured into.
Okay, Colin Goon says, meet up in Oz, his house. No problem.
Excellent.
No,
Well,
he's
very
what it
generous
said.
of
It
you,
said,
Colin.
meet up in Oz, no problem. Didn't say his house.
I
He
know.
says
We
he said
read
he's
between
going to
the
rent
lines there.
he's going to rent a big old
A yacht.
yacht, and then throw a big party on it for everybody in Oz.
Okay, I know what you're going to say, Nick. It's the donkeys
Behind.
back
Oh,
end.
Yeah, it's a fanny.
Caboose.
He's trying to say
Actually.
Jack something.
No, it's a fanny. It's
It's
called
an
fanny.
ass's ass is what it is.
Fanny.
Okay.
And
With
Jeff,
that-
I think you need to cut it off now.
Yeah.
I think we need to go. Goodbye.
See you, everybody. Thanks for hanging
Bye.
out. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, so it's not too abrupt, I'm going to
How can you not make it abrupt?
Fade to black.
hang on.
Oh, don't bring the plain tails in on this.
Which
Oh,
Speaking
plain
of
tails.
fluff jet,
What's it gonna do with
front and
plane
center there,
tails?
right there, fluff jet.
Oh, dead
73200.
airplanes. All those dead Boeings.
Wow. I wish I could meet her.
Nelson was wondering if that was a subliminal message. We didn't think it was too subliminal.
No. Okay, now everybody's going to stop talking. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.